Throughout the rest of the afternoon, the evening, heavy downpours and even some gusty wind are possible. Look at everybody gathering underneath like a goose. The baby's under the goose.
All right, Caitlin, thank you. And thank you for watching The Loop. Stay tuned for Chicago Live next.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to your special Wednesday edition of Chicago Live. It is Wednesday, August 5th. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. We have a lot of stuff, wide range of topics coming up over the next couple of hours here on Chicago Live. We're going to talk with someone about the little treat culture. And if you don't know what I mean, you probably have someone in your life who every once in a while splurges on an expensive cookie or maybe a nice expensive cup of coffee. And they do so because their belief is they deserve a little treat. Well, what if I told you there's an entire economy based around people giving themselves a little treat? Because let's be honest, they add up. Also, we're going to go live with Cassie Carlson from Hallis Hall, giving us the latest on how the Bears are looking out of training camp. Hard to believe we're already back in it. My phone's already lighting up with fantasy football questions, fantasy football advice, and whenever that happens, you know that everyone's back in training camp. Also, speaking of sports, we're going to go to the South Side. There is a White Sox auction taking place, but it's all for a very good cause, and we're going to talk with someone about that. Also, I tell you what, let's take that live look over at the Bean right now, because just out my window, I see a lot of people walking with umbrellas. You see a lot of people sort of huddled under the Bean, under Cloud Gate right now, trying to avoid the rain. Well, listen, they might be waiting for a while. We're going to have JD to talk about the rain that's making its way through. You know, there are a lot of people on that boat right now probably making their way to the lower levels to try to avoid the rain. Beautiful shot out there, but you can see the rain going down in the distance, a little hazy look over at Navy Pier. This is right outside our window. This is Michigan and Lake. There you go. You see the people coming outside with all their umbrellas. We're going to have a soaked rest of the day, even into tomorrow. Caitlin Cody just broke down everything we needed to know. We're going to bring JD back in just a little bit later in the show to let us know what we can expect and how it could affect, if you're getting out on the road a little bit later today, what you need to know. Lots of people walking with tarps and umbrellas out here in the window. We've got a little window in front of us that lets us know. But we're on the air today. We got a lot going on. We're going to make our way over to air travel, which could end up being impacted by the weather today. But the FAA has officially certified Boeing's new 737 MAX jet for commercial service, clearing the aircraft to begin flying after years of delay. We're going to bring in the man who knows all, Clint Henderson, travel expert, the points guy. Clint, I get excited when I get to talk with you because I know that no one knows more about this stuff than you do, man. So thank you for taking the time, as always.
You got it. You got it. I'm just so pleased to see these Maxes getting finally certified.
Well, let's talk about that. Explain why this is such a very big deal.
Well, this has been about a decade in the making, and what this will mean for passengers is really what I want to focus on, which is it's going to make new routes available that are longer, and it makes those routes more comfortable, nonstop. It'll make for fewer maintenance delays. I know you and I have both experienced a lot of that in Chicago, where the planes pulled out of service, so you'll see less of that. These planes are more comfortable, they're more fuel efficient, and they're going to replace some of these aging planes that are working some of these routes. And the great thing is it'll open up the possibility for some new routes from places like Chicago. So pretty exciting stuff, and we'll have to see where Southwest initially rolls these out. I think it's still going to be early next year before you start to see these planes in service.
Is it going to be primarily Southwest as the airline that's going to be taking advantage of them?
Yeah, it's going to be Southwest. They have a big commitment to these planes to start with. We'll see where those routes end up. I thought maybe these planes might be used inter-island, even in Hawaii, but I think probably it's more likely they'll be used on routes, even Hawaii to California and places like that, because these engines get the most fuel efficiency on longer routes. So that's where this plane is the most powerful. It's got fewer passengers on board, and so routes that aren't quite as popular, maybe places like Chicago to Minneapolis and things like that, they'll put this plane into service on some of those routes.
Now listen, Clint, you say fewer passengers, and I say great. take them all off except me. That sounds fantastic. How many fewer are we talking about exactly?
So you're down to 100 and 150, I think, is the max where these Max 7s go out.
From what? 150 from what would you say?
From 200, as many as 200
right.
on some planes. So it just really depends on the route and which model you're talking about. Some of the Maxes, there's Max 8 and Max 9 that are already in service. The Max 7 is now certified. Now we're waiting for the Max 10 to be certified. So that Max 10 will have up to 204 passengers, I think, is the count. So it depends on which model of plane you're talking about. But the 737 Max 7 has the fewest amount of passengers. But interestingly, it also has among the longest range of these planes. So very interesting what you can do with those kind of planes.
When you talk about new routes, but that they're primarily going to be used by Southwest, I hear that and I think, okay, well then that's probably going to be more domestic routes, right? Southwest tends to do domestic, maybe Mexico, but for the most part. So what are some of the new domestic routes that maybe in Chicago weren't available that now might be available?
Well, we just don't know yet. It could be, that's really going to be up to Southwest, and they've given no hints at all about what they're going to do with these planes. I do think what you're going to see at first, though, is a replacement of some of the old 737s that have been operating for 20 years sometimes. And so you'll see those planes be replaced by these next generation Maxes that have better fuel efficiency and slightly better passenger experience. So no exotic route announcements to tell you about yet, but I will let you know as soon as we know, that's for sure.
Clint, what were some of the hurdles that Boeing had to jump over to get through to make this possible for them?
Yeah, so the first thing is that there was 2 deadly crashes of Max jets. And that wasn't this model, but you saw a huge focus on safety after these 2 deadly crashes. So they had to get new computer systems to help with landing. What had happened was the sort of automatic controls took over on some of these planes, and it in part led to these crashes. And so lots of new safety features were insisted upon by the FAA. So that happened, the pandemic happened, and then you had the blowout on another Max jet for Alaska Airlines of the window. No one was hurt, no one was killed in that incident, but that increased the sort of microscope on the Max series. And so Boeing's been sort of getting sign-off from the government now for years to make this happen.
I was going to ask, has the FAA certification process, has it changed much since those 2 crashes?
Yeah, lots more scrutiny, lots more hand-holding, lots more inspectors working with Boeing officials. Now, I think things seem to be on the upswing there, and both organizations seem to be on good footing right now. And so I think things seem to be going a lot smoother. I would expect we'll get certification of the Max 10 here in the next couple of months.
And, obviously, fewer passengers sounds great. New routes sound great. Fuel efficiency is great. But following those 2 crashes, a lot of people were looking at Boeing with a little bit of apprehension. How much of their job was less of new planes, fewer passengers, new routes? That's great, but also just building people's trust back and getting flyers to feel confident on their planes again.
Yeah, no, that's been huge. And, I got to do a factory tour at Boeing. It was really compelling. You really got to see up close how seriously they take safety issues. And I think, those crashes, very unusual, and no one wants to see that happen. And so I think the government's been working hand in hand with Boeing to make sure we never see anything like that happen again.
I do have to, just because I tend to be pessimistic sometimes about these things, because fewer passengers, that sounds great, more leg room and more room to kind of stretch around a little bit, but does at the end of the day, they gotta pay for the fuel, they gotta pay for the plane, they gotta get from A to B, and someone's gotta pay for it. Does fewer passengers potentially imply higher ticket prices?
It could. Now, here's what I would say. You notice I didn't say extra leg room. I said it's
That's fair. That's fair. I said that, so I'll take that. Maybe is that just me being naive?
It's a better experience for passengers because there's these new bins overhead that allow for more carry-on bags to be on board. It's more light on board. The planes are quieter. They have better pressurization. You feel less tired after you fly on them, but they're squeezing in as many people as they can. And remember, Southwest has completely changed its business model in the years since these planes were first talked about going into service. So now you're paying for bags. That wasn't the case before. You probably have to pay for a seat assignment. So things have certainly changed. And a new plane, just because it has that new plane smell, is not going to mean it's going to be a better overall experience for a passenger.
That's fair. Are we expecting, I know we've been focusing on Southwest and they are sort of taking priority on these planes. Are we expecting other airlines to use them as well? Are they waiting for the 10 that you said is coming?
Yeah, no, you'll definitely see the 10 and the 8 and the 9 are the most popular models, but you will see some other airlines get into the 7 just because it's a really efficient jet. It has a smaller passenger load. It can do more interesting routing. So lots of options here. It will not be as popular as some of the other MAX models, though.
And you know, to swing back around, you're absolutely right. You did not promise more legroom. Are the days of, I hate to phrase it this way, but are the days of just being comfortable in coach, are those behind us? Is that a thing that we're going to remember fondly, like the dial-up modem?
So look, I think if you are willing to pay for the experience, there's plenty of ways to be more comfortable in coach, like buying extra legroom seats. But the days of getting a free upgrade or extra legroom seats for free or the exit row for free, those days are over.
Well, you know what? I remember them fondly, man. I remember them fondly. What's our timeline looking like for the MAX 7s?
I think the MAX 7 version is going to be out early next year, and then I think another couple months, hopefully, we'll at least hear about the first certification of the 10s.
And do they tend to gravitate toward the major airports first? Does it stand to reason that you know, Southwest at Midway, that Midway would be one of the first the first airports that we would see it at?
Yeah, like I said, Southwest has not said yet, but I do think Midway, since it has so many long, thin routes, I think Midway could see some of these planes right away. And
you did mention more direct routes, and again, you know, one of the things I think of when I think of Southwest are the connections. You know, you maybe got to stop in Albuquerque to get to LA or whatever the case may be. Does it stand to reason then that Southwest might offer more direct flights to where you want to go? I know it's right now it's all speculative because they're still not saying much, but does that stand to reason that we might see more direct Southwest flights rather than having to connect 84 times?
Yes, I do think that's ahead, and I think you're going to see routes like Chicago, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Nashville, Cleveland, Memphis, Boise seasonally, and Albuquerque. I think those will all have service on this new plane. So, and then I think look for some other unique new routes if the rollout of these planes continues at pace.
I just love that they have more room for bags now that they're charging for bags like that. Yeah. More room for money. All right, Clint Henderson, travel expert, the points guy. Thank you for breaking this down for us, man. And we'll talk soon. Hopefully they'll be flying around Chicago soon.
Yeah, look forward to it.
All right, take care. All right, guys. Much more to come here on Chicago Live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I got hurt in a...
Welcome back. 1:15 on Chicago Live. A Lake County man has been sentenced to 22 years in prison after pleading guilty to involuntary sexual servitude of a minor and aggravated criminal sexual abuse. 52-year-old Jose Puga entered the plea as part of an agreement with prosecutors. Officials say that the case was made possible by the survivor's courage in coming forward, including a powerful victim impact statement delivered in court. We're going to bring in live Chief Chris Cavelli of Lake County Sheriff's Office. Chief, thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Of course. Can you just give us a little bit of background on the case for people that are not familiar with this story?
Yeah, so this case actually began in 2019 when our Special Investigations Group, who specializes in human trafficking, received a tip that there was a 15-year-old being trafficked in Lake County. So they immediately rolled up their sleeves, got to work, conducted an immediate investigation, got onto some websites that are often used under the guise of escorts, and found some images where our potential victim may have been the victim that was going to be trafficked. And so what they did is they set up a meeting with the individual that was actually, I guess, the quote-unquote forcing her into this involuntary servitude, and they arrived at a location. This was a female that had some supervisory relationship over the victim, and they were able to rescue the human trafficking victim, the 15-year-old.
I want to talk about the victim and just the survivor's bravery and the coming forward in the way, because I know that was a huge part of the case. Am I right?
It absolutely was. This tip was a huge part of the case, and our investigations group conducted this investigation where they were able to go online and find a website where this victim may have been trafficked. When they rescued her, obviously that is of the utmost importance, getting her into the proper care that she needs, being able to activate a multidisciplinary team through the Lake County Children's Advocacy Center, get her the resources she needs, but to really learn about what was happening and how she was being victimized.
I know we mentioned sort of off the top, Jose Puga, 52, entering the guilty plea. Does it stand to reason that he could potentially have more information that could, is this wider? Is this bigger than just him, I would imagine?
We believe with this case specifically, the two that were charged were the only two that were responsible for this with this particular victim. However, human trafficking really is a big thing that's happening across the country, and there are various task forces that are set up to investigate that, and we're proud and happy to run one here out of the Lake County Sheriff's Office in close collaboration with our federal partners in the Lake County State's Attorney's Office to investigate and rescue victims of human trafficking, and then hold those offenders accountable.
Chief, talk to me about those collaborations between local and federal agencies. I'd imagine sort of it's two teams working together, both of which found success that maybe you wouldn't have found if the other person hadn't been there.
Yeah, collaboration is really key to any investigation that goes outside of geographical boundaries or Lake County here, for example. So in our Special Investigations Group, we have FBI, ATF, where they have members of their teams that are part of our group, along with several municipal partners. And what that helps us do is combine resources, collaborate, work together at solving crime. And every day they're going after human traffickers, trying to rescue those victims, gun traffickers, and drug traffickers as well.
Chief, oftentimes, whenever I'm at the airport or somewhere, you'll see the signs in the restroom, and it's all the signs you should be looking for that maybe there's human trafficking around, and maybe you're not even clocking in. And I think that one of the things that says is that sometimes human trafficking, the signs are there, they're out there, and maybe people are missing them. What are some of the most apparent signs? Because you talked about how valuable that tip was to this case. What are some of the most apparent signs people should be looking for that might flag them that they're seeing something? And then if they do, what is the next step?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is the gut. What does your gut say about a situation? Are you seeing an individual that appears to be going with somebody else against their will, that doesn't seem to be understanding what's happening around them, whether it's a child or an adult? When we think human trafficking, often we think of children, and children are human trafficked. But there are adults also that come here, they're lured under false pretenses, where they're promised work, shelter, and then their trafficker will strip them of all of their identification, their money, passport, anything that they have, and basically hold them captive until they can work off this debt and until it's paid off, but that debt never ends. So really you have to go on your gut. If there's something that just is out of place, contact your local police department, let them know what's going on so investigators can conduct a thorough investigation and work with federal partners and try to get to the bottom of what's happening. If it's nothing, terrific, but it often can be something, and these tips often lead to victims being rescued.
Chief, was this, in regards to human trafficking, was this sort of an isolated incident, or I mean, how prevalent of an issue is human trafficking in the area?
It's prevalent. It's prevalent everywhere, but we're doing something about it here in Lake County and working with our local municipal partners, working with our federal partners to identify human trafficking offenders and rescue those victims. Every year, we're rescuing human traffic victims from their offenders and bringing them to safety.
What are the challenges whenever you're building the case? Because I know there are so many different levels to it, but whenever you start to realize that there are pieces of a puzzle that you guys can assemble into a bigger picture, what are some of the challenges that you face?
Well, oftentimes the victims are very scared. They're scared to come forward. Sometimes their individual who took possession of them, took custody of them, is trafficking them, has built this false sense of security in the victim's mind. And that can be a challenge to overcome. But fortunately, we have a lot of resources available here in the county through our partners, through our collaboration with the state's attorney's office, where we're able to provide every service needed for a victim in these cases.
I was just about to say, what reassurance do you want to get out there to victims to let them know that there are resources available?
Yes, we will do everything we possibly can to bring their human trafficker to justice, and we will support them throughout the entire process. We have a great team of people who investigate these crimes every day, who have resources for the victims and have made it a priority to take care of the victims who are rescued. So we're there for them.
You know, the sentence that we were talking about, 22 years in prison, it's not a slap on the wrist. What do you hope that a sentence like that, what sort of message do you hope that it sends?
We hope it sends a message that this is a crime against person. This is a serious crime. Victimization of anybody won't be tolerated. We're not going to stand for the most vulnerable having their rights stripped away from them and then being forced into servitude of any kind. And they will be held accountable. Our state's attorney's office has a whole team dedicated to prosecuting human traffickers.
And not to, keep swinging back around to the value of that tip, but, you guys are obviously doing all the work that you can do, but, sometimes members of the community, like I said, see things that they don't realize what they're seeing, or maybe they clock something that's unusual to them, and sometimes that might be the difference between saving someone and not. What do you hope people of the community know that they have the power to do, even if they're not in law enforcement?
Absolutely. A tip or report can save somebody's life. There's no doubt about it. And if you're not comfortable picking up a phone and talking to an investigator, you can go online to our LCSO app, report a tip anonymously there, through our website, through Crime Stoppers, through the FBI. Just find a way to make a report, even if you do it anonymously, so we can look into it.
Are there things that can be done? Because right now we're talking about rescuing someone from the throes of human trafficking. Are there efforts to kind of stop it before it happens? Are there signs that you guys can see that might be indicative that it's in the beginning of the process? I mean, how do we stop it from even getting there?
Well, really, it takes a village. And you mentioned the signs that you saw at various locations. Those are huge. Just reading those signs, knowing that human trafficking occurs, knowing that it's a real thing, that's really important. And we have teams that go out and inform hotels, inform schools what to look for, make presentations to large groups. So if somebody in that group might be a victim, they realize, maybe what I'm doing is against my will and I need to come forward, and there are resources for me. So it really takes all of us, from law enforcement, from the community, people to speak up and take action.
Can you tell me a little bit about those presentations when you go out to the hotels and when you go out to the schools? What are the things that you're telling the people there that they should be on the lookout for in case someone, watching right now is in the same situation and they're seeing something similar?
really biggest thing is you got to go with your gut. We know what a normal interaction typically looks like between people, and if you see somebody that is very uncomfortable in the situation, appears that they don't belong with the individual who might be checking into a hotel, or they're there against their will, or don't want to be there, or don't feel right about the situation, that's an opportunity to report it, just so we can check their well-being. Maybe all is okay, maybe it was a misread and that's fine, but maybe not. It could be a lot worse.
Are there misconceptions about human trafficking that maybe are worth clearing up, where maybe someone thinks it looks one particular way, but in fact it looks different, or they think it only looks one way, but in fact it could look several other ways?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's commonly a misconception is we've been to houses where neighbors, they kind of felt something was off, but felt that it was just a normal situation. It couldn't happen in my community. It can happen everywhere. It doesn't matter what neighborhood you're from, what community you're from. Human trafficking exists. So if you see something that is odd, out of the ordinary, kicks you in the gut and makes you feel like it isn't right, it should be reported. It can happen anywhere.
Chief Chris Cavelli, Lake County Sheriff's Office. Thank you, sir, for what you do, and looking forward to talking with you again soon.
Likewise. Have a great day.
Take care. You too, sir. All right, guys, 1:26. Much more to come on Chicago Live. We're going to check in with Cassie Carlson, who's going to give us the latest on the Bears, how training camp's looking. But for now, we got to roll a break. We'll be right back.
What?
Welcome back. 1:29 on Chicago Live. It's hard to believe, because when I think of football, I think of fall. I think of getting into even the winter months. But we're there. It's August. We're in training camp time, and who better to talk about just how the Bears are looking right now? Because let's be honest, I think expectations are on the upward trajectory. We're going to bring in Cassie Carlson from La Casa de Cassie, as I have officially nicknamed it. Rushed home from Hallis Hall to be able to be live with us. Cassie, first of all, good to see you. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jake, and I like the nickname. I'm going to have a plaque name.
I know. You got to have it just established, 2026. Yeah. Listen, you have seen your fair share of Bears training camps. Does this one feel different to you at all, or is it just, hey, we got to show up and we got to do the work?
Good question. So last year felt different, I would say, in the sense that you could sense the intensity was way higher with Ben Johnson. This year, I would say surprised how the offense looked so efficient early on because, I mean, we were doing First and North yesterday, which is with all of our affiliates in the division, and Minnesota, who obviously has a quarterback competition, they were saying how typically the defense is ahead of the offense at this point in training camp. And up until yesterday, it was the offense that was ahead of the defense. And so when you're talking about Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams going and working together in a second season, to see that it was kind of a seamless transition from the off season into their first practices was a positive sign. But yesterday was a good day for the defense because those pads come on and you can start to see the level of intensity pick up in practice. Devin Bush, their new linebacker who has 4.3 speed, was getting after Caleb Williams. He had a big tackle on Luther Burden in the end zone on the last rep of practice where Luther was a little bit slow to get up, but he was back at practice today. And as Press Taylor, the new offensive coordinator, said today that he feels like the pre-snap operation maybe took a step back for the Bears offense a little bit over the last 2 days, which is something that they felt like they could move past, at least last week when they were talking. More the emphasis is on post-snap operation in this training camp. So it's kind of a good back and forth, but that's healthy. You know, you're going to see that throughout training camp. It's a very long process. We were already joking. I mean, the Bears are practicing. They're on the field at like 8:15 in the morning. So they're out there really early. And Jake, I know you're a morning show guy, but for us who work in sports, like, we're out the door, like I'm waking up at 5 a.m. out the door. And so it's alarming when their practices wrap up at 9:45 a.m. and the day's like already over. But you're seeing some good from the defense, some good from the offense. But overall, I think you're just seeing the continuity of Ben Johnson, his messaging, and it's a very clear message that the players very much understand.
I was going to tell you, Cassie, you're not really going to get a lot of sympathy from news people about having to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to get a lot of tears.
No, it's not 8 o'clock. It's at 6 o'clock.
Oh, boo-hoo, Cassie Carlson. No, I get it.
To get out the door by 11.
I get it. That's fair enough. Listen, I do want to give a shout out. First of all, First and North is amazing. If you're not watching First and North, you are missing one of the best sports shows in television. And one of the reasons I love it is it's such a great collection of amazing reporters who represent, well, I think arguably maybe the toughest division in football. And I'd really love to know the perspective over the years that we've done that show, because I know we've done it for a couple of seasons now. Has the opposition, the other stations that represent the other teams in the division, has their attitude toward us changed? Has the way they speak to you about the Bears changed because of the developments that the team has made?
Good question. I think you could say that, I mean, a lot of it is you start to build rapport with these reporters, and so you can kind of take jabs at each other. But I mean, that being said, when we first started, I think that, you know, maybe Minnesota was a little bit ahead of the Bears, and now, you know, Minnesota, they were just being described as a tension-filled training camp yesterday because they have a quarterback competition where Jim Rich, who works at Fox 9, was saying that neither Kyler Murray or J.J. McCarthy look good at all. And he said, maybe we have to look at Carson Wentz. And that used to be the Bears conversation, that they didn't have a quarterback. Even after Caleb Williams' rookie season, people still had massive questions about if he could be the franchise QB and live up to being the standard of the first overall pick. But after last season, there's definitely respect for Ben Johnson. There's respect for this offense. I think there's respect a lot for the offensive line. I mean, we're talking about Darnell Wright resetting the market at right tackle just yesterday, signing a 4-year, $116 million deal. And if you look at the entire O-line, outside of left tackle, which is going through a competition right now, they have every single spot solidified. And I was talking about this yesterday on the show that if you were to go back 2 years, Ben Johnson, coming from Detroit, had the best offensive line in Detroit in the league, and that's why his offense was able to be so explosive. And so now the Bears have that. And so I think it's a credit to Ryan Poles for turning it around. I think it's a credit to Ben Johnson for turning it around and changing the culture, and for the players for stepping up. But, I mean, we talk about anticipation for the season. I'll take a quote out of Ben Johnson that he said last week. They're the #1 regression candidate in the NFL. And so there's a lot of excitement right now. Of course, the NFL loves when the Bears are good. We're the #3 market in the country. It's the charter franchise. But they're still going to have to go out and play the toughest schedule in the league and see how they stack up. But, yeah, the tone has changed around the team 100%. And you win a couple playoff games, and suddenly people start to respect you.
You brought up your interview with Ben Johnson. You spoke with him on Saturday, right? Like over the weekend?
Yeah, correct.
I know you've spoken with him many times before, and he knows you at this point. So whenever you get those opportunities to sit down one-on-one, as you often do, how do you know where to lead off? Like, how do you know, like, this, you got limited time, this is the thing I got to lead off with?
You got to be creative with Ben Johnson. He's very sharp, very intense. He's very kind, like with small talk before an interview. He'll ask you how your summer was. He was like, I didn't want to leave Chicago over the summer. There's no better place. And then the cameras are like, all right, we're ready. And he's like, all right, let's go. And so you do have to like pick and choose your angles and your topics wisely. I try to go more of the mindset way of the coach because I think that, he is wired such a certain way, and the way he talks about Luther Burden being wired a certain way, like Ben Johnson is equally wired that way. And a lot of it was about Caleb. I mean, because of the hype and because of their relationship that's been a storyline this offseason. And I just try to listen. I listen to all the interviews that Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams do. Like, unfortunately, my mind, maybe for better or worse, like my mind is this encyclopedia of quotes and things people have said in the past that I want to refer back to and trying to dig into a little bit more. But Ben always gives you something. And that's what I really appreciate about him is there's no coach speak when he talks. Mm-hmm. Like, he was talking about the relationship with Caleb Williams and how he was able to motivate him last year and push certain buttons. And he was trying to give this answer of like, he doesn't need to be motivated. And I was like, well, Caleb said on a different podcast or whatever that you tend to bring up like some bad things people have said about him in the past. He's like, well, yeah, like I'm a little petty. And I'm like, that's gold. Like, that's what we want. We want to know the truth. And so he does give you a lot. He gives you, like, he answers questions. There's a lot of coaches who talk around questions. He actually answers them. So I always appreciate that when you ask him something directly, he's going to answer it. And he's a really fun interview and always is great.
It's amazing sometimes when our bar for interviews is like, just be a human person and have a conversation with me. But sometimes that very much is. You brought up other teams in the division sort of having a competition for spots. But you think about it, obviously every team right now is to some degree. That's what training camp's all about. So can you tell a difference in the players on the Bears that they know when that roster's set and we're, in the regular season, they know they're going to be there versus some of the guys that are actively fighting and scraping to earn one of those spots on the team?
Yeah, that's the tough part about where the Bears are right now because while they'll come out and say that they want competition at every position, I do feel like a lot of these positions are solidified. And that's such a different place of being than we were 4 years ago when every position was up for grabs. But if you look in that wide receiver room, like it's going to be really hard to figure out who is going to be the fourth receiver on that team because you're talking about Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Khalif Raymond, Jade Walker. Then there's J.P. Richardson, someone like Scotty Miller, a Barrington native who they signed this past offseason. Like, it's a very deep room. And so who's going to be like kind of on the fringe is always interesting. If you're looking at like depth pieces, I mean, given the injury to Kobe Bryant, and he's going to be out 8 to 10 weeks with the knee injury, so that keeps him out the month of September. You're hoping maybe he's back the second week of October, which is against the Packers. But they're kind of thin at safety because Elijah Hicks is on the PUP list. You had Kyler Gordon also on the PUP list. He's their nickel, so they're having this rotation at nickel. Cam Lewis is a safety who's a veteran. He started some playoff games, came over from the Bills. He's sliding back to safety. It's like they don't have a lot of depth in the secondary all of a sudden. And for a team where you felt like that was going to be their strength, I think you look at it now and you're like, all right, well, they had a ton of production from some no-name guys last year who made a name for themselves, like Nashawn Wright, but Nashawn Wright's not on this roster. And so I think it's more of those positions. And then also, if you're looking at maybe interior defensive line, they have Jervon Dexter, they have Grady Jarrett, but they made a bunch of offseason signings to kind of add some depth there, practice pieces, rotation pieces, and maybe one of them emerge. But, it's so different of just a feel. Like, you feel like this team has a lot of veterans on it. They have a lot of young players who are high draft picks who are going to contribute, especially on offense. Like, their core weapons, they're all in their second year for the most part. So it's going to be really hard for someone to come in and find a spot. That's why they have special teams. Like, a lot of times that's where someone gets their opportunity to see the field and then maybe works into a more prominent role. But it is a different feel where you feel like, all right, most of these positions are solidified, and that's where you want to be, right? Like, they want to have guys under contract who they believe are going to help contribute and win games for them for a long time.
Are you saying it would have been a really boring Hard Knocks season if it had been us this season?
Well, it's always interesting, Hard Knocks. I did not watch the new one, which just dropped last night.
I'm saying, I think, you're good. I think we're not even a week behind yet.
No, but what's interesting about that is they usually go for teams who are, in rebuild years. Instead, they're in Seattle, who's coming off winning a Super Bowl.
Right.
So I wouldn't. No, there's always interesting stories. So I don't believe that it would be a boring season. I think Ben Johnson would make it interesting. Caleb Williams would obviously make it interesting. And there's so many great characters in the locker room that have great stories that would be fun to follow. But in terms of, I think when the Bears had Hard Knocks 2 years ago now, Ian Wheeler was a running back who everyone fell in love with, and then he tore his ACL in the final preseason game. He got cut. And so it's those are the heartstring stories. And yes, there are going to be some of those, but it doesn't feel like there is the amount of players that you're all right, he has a chance to make the roster. He has a chance. It's a lot more solidified just at every position.
Well, forgive the shameless plugging, but if people want the next best thing to a Hard Knocks Bears season, they should go follow the Fox 32 Chicago Sports Instagram account.
Thank you. Thanks, Jake.
You like
we
that?
just watched an Instagram, so we're
It's great.
Right now, if you're wondering the hot quotes of the day, we got one up there from, who do we post today? Oh, Dio Odengbo. I mean, that's a good story. He tore his Achilles last year, came back a little early. There is this trend, I guess you could call it, going around on Twitter calling it motivated Dio, and it got picked up by Madden, and it was every time Dio Dengbo was being talked about, it was a motivated Dio Dengbo. And he said he's not on social media, but he did see the memes and the trends on Twitter, and he was I didn't take offense to it. I think it's funny. It's for entertainment purposes, but it's funny that these things catch on and the players notice because they can't stay away from social media.
Of course.
It's nearly impossible, so they see everything. And then Press Taylor today had a great quote. We know that Ben Johnson, I think a lot of people thought when he was hired that we were going to see this explosive passing offense, and that was going to be what this offense was going to be predicated on. But no, Ben Johnson likes to run the ball. The offense is predicated on, and I shouldn't even say efficient run game, because he said Ben Johnson doesn't use the word efficient. He used the word explosive. And so while many people believe Ben Johnson wants to be an efficient play caller, he wants his offense to be efficient, no, Ben Johnson wants his offense to be explosive. And so he had a great quote about that of that's how they talk about things in meetings. And Kyle Monungai, their running back, said no, they're always hunting for as many yards as possible when they're on offense.
I love that. I'm going to ask you a question that I know you've been asked probably many times before and will continue to be asked as we go through the preseason games, because I've been in situations where we've lost a preseason game and my phone rang and all my buddies are dude, it's over. We're going 0-17. And then I've been in a situation where we've won a preseason game and my phone rings and my buddies are that's it. We're going to the Super Bowl. How much stock do you personally put in preseason games? See, I feel that's the answer. That's what we need to hear.
But I appreciate the overreaction.
Sure.
Because it is the excitement for a new season. You don't get to see much. It's all scripted. I actually think Ben Johnson told me this at the Combine last year. I want to say he used the same script every single year since he's been a coordinator and now a head coach. And so it's they're just recycling plays to try to get the feel for being in a game. But, I mean, I think there was, I don't know the exact stat, Matt Eberflus, I want to say was undefeated in the preseason. And we all know how that turned out. We don't know if starters are going to play or not yet. He was asked about it for the first time earlier this week and kind of had a non-answer. They do have 2 joint practices, both with the Bengals and the Titans. And Ben Johnson has said before he sees those as more valuable because it's more of a controlled environment where they can set up situations. And that the ones are going to get a lot of run in those practices. So I would bet you probably don't see the starters in third preseason game, but I think there's a chance you see him for a series or 2 in that first one next Saturday at Soldier Field, which would be exciting. But no, don't glean too much into it, until week 1 at Carolina. It's so hard to tell exactly what they're trying to accomplish in those preseason games, and they really don't mean a whole lot.
See, I think that's important to hear, especially coming from you. Cassie, I'm going to cut you loose on this. because one of the downsides of you being on this show, as much as we hoping that you're going to be on this show, is that I get to bug you every week about my fantasy football team, and we haven't even started yet. But I'm picking 12. It's the draft is I think what is it, September 3rd, like the day before the first regular season game.
Okay.
I'm picking 12th, and we're doing snake. So I'm picking 12th, and then I'll pick 13th. I'm thinking wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, just best who's available.
I would go running back, wide receiver. Bijan just signed a big deal. Bijan Robinson, he's got to be one of the top fantasy picks, but he'll probably be off the board. Jahmyr Gibbs, we're waiting to see if he signs a big extension in Detroit. He would be another good one. Jake, I don't know if I should admit this or not. I don't play fantasy football.
I hear that a lot from people that report on sports, that you don't do fantasy.
I don't have time.
It's fine.
I simply don't have time. I used to do it, and then I would forget to set my lineups, and I would lose every week. And so
you want to join our league?
No, because I don't want to lose.
Oh, no, but I would say we need someone that would lose, so that would be...
No, I don't want to lose. I'm too competitive.
Fair enough.
So I retired.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, if anyone has earned the right to not do fantasy football, it's you. But I plan on at least a portion of our weekly interview to be me asking you and giving you an update on my fantasy team. Cassie Carlson, we appreciate you. La Casa de Cassie, you rock. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you're very busy, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jake. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys, 1:46. More to come on Chicago Live. Looking gloomy out there. We'll keep you updated on the weather and all things happening in and around our city when Fox Chicago Live continues. Welcome back. We're just about 1:49 on Chicago Live. This next topic and our guest, very fascinating. I'm very excited about this. A remarkable piece of prehistoric history lies just beneath the waters of Lake Michigan along Chicago's south side. Morgan Shoal is a 32-acre underwater limestone reef dating back roughly 425 million years. We're going to bring in paleontologist Paul Mayer with the Field Museum. Paul, so many questions. This is just fascinating. Are you as fascinated about this as everyone else is?
Oh, sure. I spent my whole life studying Silurian reefs, so sure. Okay,
so talk to us a little bit about Morgan Shoal. When did this? 425 million years ago. This is pretty incredible. What does it tell us about what the city looked, or not the city, but what did it tell us about what this area looked like back then?
So this is way, way before dinosaurs. This would have been during the Silurian period, about 430 million years ago. Chicago would have been south of the equator at about 15 degrees south latitude, so we're in the tropical zone. We had reefs growing here, all kinds of marine animals, shellfish like brachiopods and cephalopods swimming around, trilobites crawling along the seafloor. It would have been, picture something like the Bahamas or the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, and that's what Chicago would have been like when this limestone. It was deposited originally as mud that turned to limestone, and then the limestone turned to dolomite, which is the new state rock of Illinois.
What does it take to see this? I know we mentioned it's just offshore between 45th and 51st. Is it? I mean, can you see it just by looking down into the water? Is it how deep down are we talking?
Some days, if it's clear, I think the shoal is 8 or 10 feet normally, so you might see that the surface water looks a little bit different color. And on a day when the Lake Michigan water level is lower, you might be able to just barely be able to see it. But if you want to see what the rock looks like, you can go to Polisimo State Park, County Park District Park, right south of I-55 by Archer and Halstead Road. And there's that used to be the Bridgeport Stearns Quarry. And if you want to see what the rock looks like under Lake Michigan, that's what it would look like right there.
That's amazing. Paul, I want to go back to something you said when you talked about, 425 million years ago, this area, the Chicago area, being below the equator. Can you talk a little bit about that? And obviously, was that, sorry, I'm trying to go back to my middle school science class. Was that like the Pangea when everything was sort of one big giant piece of land?
That's actually way before Pangea.
But at least I knew Pangea. I get points for that.
250 million years ago, so this is before Pangea. North America was kind of south, and if I use my map of North America, we would have been rotated like this, and then over time we've been pushed by tectonic forces, rotated and pushed northwards, and so we would have been Chicago would have been south of the equator, and would have been a very different place. You would have had to take a boat to get to work.
You know what?
Tropical. The sea level, the sea would have been very clear, something like the Bahamas that you would see today, or in the Caribbean.
We mentioned the shoal being, depending on the water and how clear the water is on any given day, that you might be able to look down and see it. Is this something that requires protection on our part?
Well, the rock itself probably doesn't need protection, but there's a lot of other animals that live on the modern day animals that make that shoal a home. So you have a lot of arthropods and bivalves, and I'm not sure all the different types of modern day animals that live there, but there's not a lot of exposed bedrock on the lake bottom that I'm aware of. And so that might be a kind of a special area that a biologist would have to look at to decide if that should be protected or not.
I just love that there is a glimpse to the past, to the very distant past, 425 million years, just right off the coast in Lake Michigan. Are there other examples of a time long ago that are easily accessible in the way that this is in our area, that someone, I didn't know that this was over there, and now I kind of want to get in a boat and go over there and try to look down and see if I can see it. Are there any other examples of something like Morgan Shoal that we can go see?
Well, if you want to see Silurian age rocks, like I said, Polisimo State, the park, it's a Park District Park, just south of I-55 by Halstead and Archer. There's the Sag Canal at Lockport. They dug their way through a lot of Silurian rocks, so there's a lot of rock there that you can look at. And then the other big fossil area here in the Chicago area, just south near Braidwood and Coal City, would be the Maison Creek, which is 310 million year old fossils that many people collected when they were strip mining for coal down there. So there's quite a few really neat fossil areas right here in the Chicago area that make it kind of unique. And some of the fossils found here are found nowhere else in the world.
I know all the amazing folks, including yourself, over at the Fuel Museum. This is, something like this. It's more than just, oh, that's really interesting, or that's really cool to look at. Oftentimes, it's what information can we glean from this? What can we look at that and discover about the past, about the world, about this area? What information, what's the most important thing you guys were able to pull from Morgan Shoal in terms of information?
Well, one of the things, Morgan Shoals is hard to study because it's underwater, but a lot of the same age rock is on land. So like Thornton Quarry, there's a 300-foot tall fossil reef in the quarry wall there. And so when you drive through there on the tri-state, you'll see a lot of rock where they dug through is actually on an angle tilted. It's not because there's a big earthquake or mountain building event here. It's because it was draped over these dying reefs. And so it was deposited at an angle. So those are called flank beds, and you can observe those as you drive on the tri-state. So what we've learned is that there's a lot of life here, that the Silurian reefs were some of the biggest biological structures ever built up until that time, and some of the most diverse communities that lived there up until that time. So this is really a biological hotspot 425, 430 million years ago. And also an important part is that tectonic forces have moved Chicago and moved North America. So we used to be south and in the equator, which is a huge development. But there's a lot of different fossils, a lot of neat stuff you can learn. And another key thing is when I talk to kids and they ask, I ask them, what does geology mean? They'll say it's the study of the earth. But really, I like to think it's the study of the earth and how the planet has changed over time. And so this is all giving us information on what the planet was like, how it changed, how animals have evolved, how animals have changed over time. And it's a really neat thing to see. And it's also a period of reef building, which today we have reefs and there's a lot of trouble with coral bleaching and some of the reefs, people worried about protecting them. And we can see in the past that reefs also have been threatened and have gone extinct and have been rebuilt. So it tells us a lot about, what problems we're facing today and what has happened in the past. So the past is kind of the key to the present sometimes.
Paul, you mentioned it being obviously makes sense. It's at the bottom of the lake. So it makes it a bit of a difficult thing to get down there and look at. This might be a stupid question. Is there like a diving team at the Field Museum that suits up and gets their scuba tank on and goes down there and looks at it?
Well, I know Janet Voigt's here actually used to go into submersibles and dive down to the bottom of some of the oceans, really deep water. But I'm not aware of anyone who scuba dives or even you could probably just snorkel and get a pretty good look at it here in Lake Michigan, but I'm not aware of a team that does that at the Field Museum right now.
Listen, all I'm hearing, Paul, is a really great potential Chicago Live segment. So if you want to get a team together, we'll get you back on the show. We'll show it live, my man.
All right.
All right, buddy. Paul Mayer, paleontologist with the Field Museum. Thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right,
glad to be on.
All right, guys, just about 1:57, 1:58, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back.
Good.
Welcome back. Just about 2 o'clock here on Chicago Live. 1 hour down, but still lots more to come. Let's take a live look out at the bean right now and see how things are looking out there. I'm looking outside of our window here at Michigan and Lake. Not seeing as many people as before with umbrellas. Yeah, definitely not as many people gathered under the bean, under Cloud Gate, as there was just about an hour ago. But as we heard everyone from Mike Kaplan to Caitlin Cody talk earlier on the show, we do have some weather coming our way that's going to be just a little bit later in the day, but it could be some pretty serious weather. The radar looked pretty intense whenever they were showing it to us. We're going to be bringing JD in to talk a little bit about what we can expect in the coming hours and even into tomorrow in regards to rain. Also, I'm pretty interested in this. We're going to be talking about the little treat culture. And if you don't know what I mean, it's basically this idea that there's an entire generation out there that will make smaller but not insignificant purchases under the guise of I deserve a little treat. Whether it's, buying, a $15 cookie from a local bakery, or maybe it's buying that $7 coffee from their local barista, or maybe it's, the idea being that these little things add up, and there's really an entire industry, there's an entire economy based around the idea of a generation really just saying that I deserve a little treat. So we're going to be talking with someone about that. Also, we're going to be talking about the potential new curfew out of Dalton, a result of rise in teen gatherings. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. All that coming up in the next couple of hours here on Chicago Live. And then, of course, Fox 32 News at 4 kicks off with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. So we got lots more to come in the remaining couple of hours here on Chicago Live. Great stuff. You don't want to miss it. But for now, we're going to roll to break, and we will be right back.
I got hurt in a car accident.
Welcome back to Chicago Live, just about 2:04. The Village of Dalton is tightening its youth curfew in response to a series of large teen gatherings that officials are describing as teen takeovers. The Village Board voted to move the curfew for anyone under 18 to 9 p.m. every night. We're going to bring in Police Chief Jeffrey Chapman. Chief, thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you. Chief, I think
you're very welcome.
Oh, thank you. First of all, tell us about some of the initial teen gatherings, teen takeovers, whatever it is you want to call them. Let's talk about what happened that led you guys to end up making this decision.
We've experienced instances of teen takeovers. We've had teen takeovers in the village starting early July, and we've had them pretty much every weekend for probably about the last 4 or 5 weeks, resulting in large number of teens, creating some mayhem in the village, in residential neighborhoods, and just along our business corridors as well, along the Sibley corridor, and just kind of creating nuisance and mayhem, if you will, throughout the village. So that was the reason why there was a discussion by myself as well as the trustees and the mayor to talk about some strategies that we could put in place that would kind of help combat some of this nuisance activity that these teens are creating in the village.
Are these, is this a new development? Has this happened in past summers?
It has not in the Village of Dalton, it has not, but this is our first summer experiencing this kind of activity in the village.
Is there any particular reason why you think, I mean, it has, I know obviously it's happened here in Chicago for a couple of years now. Any particular reason why just randomly this summer it started happening in Dalton?
I'm not really sure. We've been trying to gather some intelligence as to get some wrap our heads around why it's happening. I do know that in speaking with a number of South Suburban chiefs of police, as well as some chiefs of police from around the country, pretty much a large number of municipalities are experiencing these teen takeovers, not just here in the South suburbs, but in Illinois, as well as around the country for some reason. It's kind of has become a trend more so this summer.
And I was going to ask, does it seem like, I'm sure you've seen, the footage of the ones happening here in the city. Are they comparable or equitable to similar to the ones that are happening around where we're sitting right now?
Well, ours has been a little different. Fortunately, we have not had any serious incidents with violence. We did have one teen takeover where there was an assault weapon recovered from a teen, but we have not seen any instances of any serious incidents or violence surrounding our takeovers.
Fair enough. Talk to me about this curfew. Is it already gone into effect?
It has. It went into effect. Our village officials, our trustees, voted to approve it at the board meeting on this past Monday. And so it is in effect as we speak.
So would you say maybe this upcoming weekend is going to be the first time that you're really able to see what kind of impact that the curfew has?
Well, we're hoping that we won't have to test it this weekend. We're hoping that we will not have a teen takeover this weekend. But if we have an occasion where there is a teen takeover, we will be able to enforce the new curfew law. That will give us, some strategies around being able, more especially some of the teens that are here to create havoc, that we can definitely use this ordinance to help us eliminate them from creating serious incidents.
And how is the curfew going to be enforced, and what are the repercussions going to be if someone breaks it?
So the curfews are going to be enforced. We're going to use discretion in enforcing the curfew, and the curfew is mainly going to be enforced with, once again, teens that are breaking the law, and it's just a tool that we're going to use to be able to remove those individuals from the street. The penalties is that it is a fine that will be in effect along with the citation that is issued of not less than $250 and not more than $2,500.
Are the teens that are a part of these gatherings, of these takeovers, are they from Dalton, or are you finding they're from other areas?
So we did an analysis of all of our teen takeovers that we've had this summer, and we did an analysis involving all of the teens that we've had contact with. And when I say contact with, involving where we've had to take a teen in for a curfew citation, curfew violation, if you will, as well as bring a teen into our station for any type of criminal activity arrest. And we've noticed that of those teens that we have encountered, only 2 of those teens were actually residents of Dalton. Others have been residents of municipalities outside of the village of Dalton, Gary, Indiana, Chicago, Matson, and surrounding suburbs.
Are there any other strategies that you guys are considering in addition to the curfew, or is it just let's see how the curfew does for now?
No, there are other strategies that we have put in place in conversations with some of our surrounding agencies that have experienced teen takeovers, as well as in conversations with chiefs of police from around the country. We've kind of shared strategies, things that work, things that have not worked. I am reluctant to share those strategies right now because we don't want them to be aware of what we are looking at doing to try to eliminate or alleviate these takeovers.
What role would you say parents and guardians play in sort of helping curb this problem?
Well, something that we've seen in a couple of occasions where we've seen that some of the parents, I would imagine that they probably have some type of app on their cell phones that can track their teens or know their whereabouts, locations of their teens. They have come to the village and the location where the takeovers are happening, and they have taken their teens out of that environment. So we have seen some help from some of the parents by way of once they find out where their teen is. And some of the parents I've had conversations with did not know that their teens were in the village engaging in the teen takeovers, but some have arrived and have actually removed their children from the incidents.
You know, inevitably there are going to be teenagers who say, hey, listen, like, this is not fair. This unfairly targets me. I'm not involved in any kind of troublemaking, but, yes, I am out usually past 9 o'clock on a Saturday, but I'm not causing any problems. To that teen that says, hey, the actions of someone else are unfairly, affecting me, to that teen, you would say what?
So once again, as I said, we are going to enforce the curfew ordinance with discretion. Teens that are going to and from work after the curfew hours take effect, as well as teens that have a lawful purpose of being out past curfew, we will not enforce it on those teens. If they're coming from grandma's house or relative's house or to and from work, we will use our discretion in not enforcing it on those teens. They have a legitimate reason to be out after curfew, and they should be allowed to do that, and our officers are going to allow that.
And then what does success look like? What signs, what indicators over the coming weeks, coming months are you looking for to be able to say this worked?
I would say that successes would be that, number one, that if we do have an occasion where we do have a takeover, that we will not have any serious incidents of violence involving these type of gatherings. But success for me as the police chief, with having to still have my officers provide service to the community and the residents, and calls for service, for police service, legitimately need the police for that service. It takes away from these teen takeovers, kind of take away from being able to service our residents who need legitimate police service. So I would say success would look like that we don't have any unlawful gatherings. We try to put the messaging out there whenever we find out that there's going to be a teen takeover, that the village does not condone these type of gatherings, because we're looking at anywhere in excess of 300 upwards to 600 kids in the village, and just, some of them are causing nuisances and mayhem throughout the village. So success would be that we don't have any unlawful gatherings.
And Chief, I'll cut you loose on this. If residents are driving around on a Saturday night and they see a group of teens, so they say that's exactly what the curfew is for, and we're past curfew, what would you say to the residents of Dalton if they see what they think maybe would be one of these teen gatherings?
Well, I would say to them to definitely call the Dalton Police Department. Let us come and investigate why those teens are gathering and what they're doing, and then let us take the appropriate enforcement action if necessary.
Dalton Police Chief Jeffrey Chapman, thank you for joining us today, sir, and breaking this down for us. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, guys. 2:14, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 16 on Chicago Live. It's always fascinating whenever we talk about the topics that we're going to have on the show in the newsroom, which ones sort of yield the most interest from people sort of around the newsroom, the desks all around us. And this might be the one that spurred the most conversation today. A new report from Bank of America Institute finds that Gen Z is rewriting the rules of consumer spending because despite having the lowest savings compared with their spending among generations, young adults continue to spend on experiences and what they call little treats. Maybe that means beauty products, coffee, jewelry, travel. So we're going to bring in Taylor Bowley, economist with Bank of America Institute. Taylor, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Of
Excited
course.
to talk about the little treat economy.
Yeah, I'm very excited because everyone's sort of heard that. Listen, I've seen the memes, I've seen it all over social media, and God knows, I don't know if I've ever actually called it a little treat for myself, but God knows I've sort of said, yeah, you know, I'm gonna order a pizza today instead of cooking. For people who are unfamiliar with the concept of a little treat, can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. So, I mean, you kind of touched on this, right? The concept of treating yourself may not be something new, but the little treat economy, I think of it as kind of an evolution from the lipstick index, which historically, in times maybe where economic pressures are heightened, consumers might get little ticket items like lipstick or nail polish to kind of make themselves feel better. Well, Gen Z has transformed this into a different level, gone beyond the makeup counter. And we're seeing that these small indulgences are kind of instant gratification for, you know, maybe if larger financial milestones feel more difficult to achieve. So that can be a seasonal latte or still going to the makeup counter, or also maybe it's just a weekend trip with friends.
And, you know, listen, the occasional, you know, expensive cup of coffee, the occasional expensive cookie from a local bakery or what have you, like that's fine. Everyone deserves, you know, you had a bad day, sure, like you do you. But it does, I mean, I feel like the issue with the concept of the little treat is that we, and I say we because, like I said, I've been guilty of it, but we are constantly finding reasons and excuses to give ourselves a little treat. It could literally just be someone on the street looked at me weird, I'm going and buying a coffee. Like the issue is it seems like it's becoming easier and easier to convince ourselves to give ourselves a little treat.
And to that point, I would say Gen Z spending growth has been really robust, and it's actually been stronger and kind of pushing against this narrative that really has been front and center in the economy the past 6 months, which is this concept of a K-shaped economy, where essentially higher income spending growth has been taking off and lower income has been moderating. Yet when we look at Gen Z, they're bucking against this trend. All income cohorts, higher, middle, lower, all of them have been spending really robustly. And part of it is this little treat attitude. And I hear what you're saying, right? Like maybe there is this sense that there's treating yourself that's gone beyond, especially when we do see that Gen Z has the lowest savings cushion compared to other generations. But you also have to think that what we're seeing in our data is that for those Gen Z, for example, that are employed, their wage growth is stronger than other generations. And part of that's life cycle effects, right? You're getting your first job, so you're getting your first paycheck. And it's this balance between paying your bills and also treating yourself.
And, I want to circle back to what you were talking about, because you did mention Gen Z sort of having lower savings maybe than other generations. Is this little treat idea potentially problematic? Or are we saying, listen, and whenever I always got frustrated whenever older generations were like, well, you're never going to be able to afford a house if you keep, ordering avocado toast. And I was like, dude, no amount of avocado toast is going to be equitable to buying a house. So like, leave me alone and let me enjoy my toast. So what is the balance of, listen, this generation doesn't have that many, doesn't have great savings, so be careful, versus it's not going to make the difference whether you're able to afford a house or not?
Well, I mean, I think the avocado toast example is really interesting because it also gets to the point, right, that each generation maybe has this stereotype associated with it, what they're spending on.
I don't even like avocado toast. I don't know why that became like the millennial thing that we're spending on, because I don't even eat avocado toast.
And yet that's what's been assigned to your generation.
Yeah.
And so it is this interesting concept. But what I would say is that if you think about Gen Z, the oldest Gen Z kind of came into, maybe they left their parents' house, they just graduated college, starting a new job, in a period of extreme uncertainty, which was essentially the global pandemic. So it has almost felt like since then, in a way, there has kind of been an ever-changing scenario of one shock after another. So Gen Z is really tapping into this mindset of, okay, it's a little indulgence because these larger financial milestones do feel further away, but they are still finding ways to treat themselves today in order to fund tomorrow's goals. So I think something that was really interesting in our data was the growing share of Gen Z that's participating in gig work, and not just any kind of gig work. It's social commerce that they're really tapping into. And that can be something as simple as maybe you're selling, secondhand clothing and getting a little extra change in your pocket to fund that seasonal latte or that avocado toast. So they are being innovative and strategic around how they're going about maintaining this spending pace.
The idea of the gig work, is that coming from sort of this new sort of burst of like the influencer generation?
It does feel for Gen Z like everyone's got a gig. And
Right.
Certainly Gen Z is perhaps arguably more digital focused than older generations, right? And there is this mindset maybe that, okay, how do I think about my career advancement? How do I think about my long-term income growth when there are new opportunities? And so I think the social commerce aspect is really interesting because you also have platforms like e-commerce. And we've seen in our consumer spending data that online retail spending growth has been really strong, especially compared to brick and mortar, going in a shop. And so that's something that Gen Z can tap into, both from a spending angle as well as an income angle that previous generations didn't. So it's also this interesting dichotomy of, are there lower barriers to entry in order to get a little bit of extra side change? I don't know. And so Gen Z is really kind of being, again, innovative, adapting to the economic pressures that they're facing.
Is there, you mentioned sort of one of the benefits of this concept of the little treat being sort of that dopamine rush, that feeling that you get, if only for a moment, whenever you do order that coffee or get that cookie or whatever the case may be. Is there a way to transfer that and find a way to do that doesn't cost you $20 every single time you want it?
I mean, I think, again, Gen Z thinks about value differently. And that could be value insofar as literally how much does it cost? Am I searching for a bargain? Which we have seen, generally speaking, over the past few years, an environment where everyone feels like everything is more expensive, candidly, because things are more expensive. So trading down, trying to think about, okay, maybe I'm going to go grocery shop here for premium produce, but I might go elsewhere to get my basics. And so like this concept of trading down and thinking about where I'm shopping has been very prevalent. In the little treat economy, there is an aspect to this where we have seen that, for example, fewer number of purchases on certain items are happening with Gen Z. But when they do it, they're spending a little bit more. So almost trading down and treating up at the same time, which is, I think, really interesting and again speaks to the fact that Gen Z is kind of making their mark on the economic landscape that we're seeing right now.
But I guess my concern would be, a big part of this conversation is the spending and the little treats, coupled with, of all the generations, they're the one with the lowest savings. Like, this feels like a cute, fun little issue to talk about whenever you're like 22. But what happens whenever someone's 42, 52, 62, and they've been little treating themselves their whole lives, and their savings account doesn't put them in a position to potentially retire? Now they're caffeinated and they got their makeup at the makeup counter, but they're not in a position to potentially rest for a period of their life.
I think your point around what are the financial risks are definitely something that Gen Z are thinking about. They're just not thinking about it in the same way. And again, part of it goes back to the fact that economic uncertainty is relatively high. Consumer sentiment is relatively low. So part of this is also, again, entering a formative year of economic contribution for Gen Z. And when we look at other generations, yes, their savings to spending ratio is higher, but they've also been in the workforce a lot longer. And they've also experienced their own economic shocks and adapted to them based off of where they are or where they were in that period of time. So I think what's going to be interesting is to see how Gen Z continues to adapt, continues to potentially transform ways in which they might be building their savings or adjusting their spending.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sounds like sort of a little bit of a sweet spot. So, like, it sort of sounds, at the end of the day, like, it sort of sounds just like a restraint, but maybe not total. Like, listen, everyone deserves that in whatever form or fashion you want to do your, whether it's coffee or sweets or makeup or what have you. Not to say people don't deserve that, but at the end of the day, restraint when it comes to finances can also be important as well, if not more so important than treating yourself.
And there are other economic factors, right, that influence how you're building a budget. And I do think what we've seen also in our data is rent is starting to, at least compared to overall inflation, come down a little bit. And Gen Z typically is comprised of more renters than homeowners. So that could be one area where they're seeing a little bit of relief, especially in certain parts of the country, where maybe that means, okay, my housing component of the budget is a little bit going down. So maybe I do feel like I can go out and get that coffee on a Friday. So again, it's kind of reacting in real time to how other economic pressures are shaping their budgets. And it will be really interesting to see, how else beyond gig work or the extent to which they're really transforming this little treat economy, what Gen Z has in store for future U.S. economic growth.
And Taylor, this might be, I'm going to cut you loose on this. This might be a ridiculous question, but how much? Because I feel like before I heard people about before I heard that people were actually doing this, I feel like I saw like the memes about it on social media, and it was kind of presented as like a joke, like doing treating myself after this little silly insignificant thing happened, or and so I felt like, did the memes, do you think, did they play any part in sort of convincing a generation that it was okay? Like, I feel like it started as a joke almost, and then now people are like, well, people are talking about this thing, so it must be okay for me to do this.
That sounds like a very interesting, was it the chicken or the egg?
Exactly right.
Type of analysis.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I would say that, again, what we've seen is that really across the board, beyond just this little treat aspect, we have seen overall Gen Z spending growth stay strong. And so beyond even the little treat economy, that is true that they are tapping into their spending power, which at the end of the day is good for overall U.S. economic growth and continues to kind of put their pace on becoming a really important contributor for overall U.S. GDP.
Taylor Bally, economist with the Bank of America Institute. Fascinating conversation. We could keep doing this all day. Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, guys, just now 2:30. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Just about 2:33 on Chicago Live. Listen, if you've ever had to try to convince your kids that science matters, that math matters, a reminder that everything in the world is math in some form or fashion. Everything in the world is physics in some form or fashion. A new look at baseball. Baseball physics is explaining some of the sport's most mysterious pitches. Scientists say unusual ball movement that might seem impossible. Sharp drops and unexpected breaks, floating fastballs can be explained by physics, can be explained by math. We're going to bring in Harvard Professor Avi Loeb. Professor, I am beyond fascinated with this, so thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure. And I had a good reason to get into it.
Tell me.
Yes. So a few weeks ago, I got a call, and the person on the other side said, "Hi, Avi, this is Kyle from the Astros." And I asked him, which astrophysics group are you referring to? Because I'm an astrophysicist. And then he explained that he's calling on behalf of the Houston Astros, which are called Astros because of the Space Center that is in Houston, NASA Space Center. And it's called Space City as well. And of course, I was very curious to understand why he's calling me. And he asked me to throw the first pitch in a game that the Astros had actually this Monday with the Toronto Blue Jays. And I was delighted. You know, that was my first encounter with a baseball field, and never done it before. I practiced a few times just a couple of days earlier with my daughters, but I went there and managed to get the ball to the catcher. So that was a good experience. Actually, the person who guided me to the place is called Orbit. That's the mascot of the Astros, and it was an amazing experience because a couple of hours earlier I had a podcast for 2 hours. I ate a lot of dark chocolate, my favorite meal, and that helped me throw the baseball. And before that, I tried to study what is the physics of baseball. When they asked me as I approached the stadium, how do I feel about this privilege, this honor of throwing the first pitch, I said, I'm now an Astros physicist. Previously, I was an astrophysicist. Now I'm the physicist of the Astros. And I learned that, if you obviously give the ball a spin, then that affects the interaction of the ball with air. And then, depending on the direction of the spin, the ball can go up or down or go sideways or go in very strange ways because the spin creates a low pressure part of the ball and a high pressure part, and that gives an additional force on the ball. But if you were to play baseball on the moon where there is no air, then it doesn't really matter how you spin the ball. It will just follow gravity.
I mean, do you think that the pitchers of Major League Baseball would be better at what they do if they had a better grasp of physics?
Either them or their coaches, potentially they can discover new tricks. Right now it's just about the spin, but maybe one can do something else to. And in principle, this can all be simulated on a computer, just like we design airplanes. It's basically aerodynamics, and one can think of ways of new tricks that were not yet employed, perhaps, to trick the batter so that the ball will do something strange as it gets close to the batter. That is an art that can be developed. If I were paid to advise, if there is money in it, one can do some simulations and perhaps find new tricks that were not realized yet.
What are the pitches, do you think, are the most fascinating to look at from the perspective of physics, where if you look at it through the naked eye, it shouldn't be possible, but because of physics, it actually is?
Yeah. It's the ball doing something strange at the right time, at the right place, not moving along the line that you expect just based on gravity. And that has to do with the way that it's being thrown, the way it spins, the way it's twisted. It actually depends on how you hold it when you throw it. And so all of these ingredients, come into play, and one can simulate that. It's much less complicated than designing airplanes, designing missiles, or any other objects that interact with air. And I think, in principle, we can do much better than currently the players are doing based on traditional throws.
I'm a big believer in, when teaching students something, reminding them of the everyday applications, particularly in regards to something that they like. And I just feel like out there right now, there's a physics teacher, there's a math teacher who might be able to better connect with a student if they explain that, hey, sports, particularly baseball, particularly pitching, it all comes down to math. It's all
Right,
math.
because-
It's all physics.
Exactly, because the laws of physics that control the motion of the ball or the player and so forth, they are all well known. There is nothing less. There is nothing to learn about the way that the interaction with air affects the ball. All that needs to be done is studying the circumstances that lead to a particular throw and so forth. One thing that is quite interesting is what is the limit, the speed limit at which a baseball can be thrown? And the limit, the record right now is 105 miles per hour. But if you were to try to throw a ball faster than that, let's say faster than 110, you will tear your tendon. So it's actually not possible, given the biology of the human hand, to throw it faster. But given that constraint, of course, one can perhaps play with the interaction with air in ways that were never realized before. And I think there is more to learn about it. It's just that physicists never simulated this, at a high level of precision. And I think there is room for improving the understanding we have. There were some scientists looking into it, but not with the practical goal of, making players perform better.
If there is a major league pitcher out there right now who's in a bit of a slump, he can't get the ball across the plate, is the answer physics? Can the answer be physics, or is that a whole other set of issues that this guy has?
Well, obviously it involves the interaction of the human with the ball, not just the interaction of air with the ball. So there is a psychological aspect to it. When I practiced a little bit, just threw a few balls, the first mistake I made was to think about how to throw it fast or, how to throw it right. But at the end, I realized that the most effective way to get the job done is actually focus on what you want to accomplish. And so when I tried to get it to the catcher, I did it, in one throw, and it wasn't too complicated. So I think it's more important to actually accomplish the goal, to focus on the goal rather than on the style or the way that you see others are doing it. So my advice is really simple: keep your eyes on the ball and the catcher, not on the audience.
Professor, I want to shift gears really quick, if you don't mind. You are on the President's UAP panel, is that right?
Yes. I was tasked to establish this UAP Science Advisory Council by a representative from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the White House, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon, the FBI, and the intelligence community. And by now I assembled about 20 scientists. And yes, we are trying to resolve the nature of unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP. And it's that if we're dealing with some technological objects that we don't understand, that the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies are baffled by, there are two possibilities. Either these technological objects were manufactured by humans or not, or by a non-human origin. And if it's humans, it's a matter of national security. It's a serious matter because it could be an adversarial nations, the Chinese, the Russians, someone is spying on us. We know about the Chinese spy balloon, and whenever I go to the kitchen and I find an ant, I know that I get alarmed because there must be many more ants hidden under the sink. So in the same way, one Chinese spy balloon means that there were many more that we haven't spotted. And that's the most down-to-earth interpretation. But there is also a chance that, we will discover alien technology, in which case it will be the biggest discovery ever made by humanity.
Let me ask you this, Professor, because there has been a lot of public discussion about NDAs connected to UAP programs. Why are these confidentiality agreements crucial to the UAP program?
So previously, eyewitnesses were worried about the legal repercussions if they're signed on a non-disclosure agreement or on some other contract, either within government or with corporations. There are some contractors and so forth. the claim was that they cannot disclose what they know, and some of them may be prohibited from even informing the President of the United States, which sounds crazy. So there was, at the beginning of this week, there was a letter that was written by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Aaron Lucas, the Deputy Director, signed it. And the goal is within the next 4 weeks, all government agencies, all former and current employees of the U.S. government and contractors are asked to disclose all information they have on unidentified anomalous phenomena. And if this information is classified, then of course the disclosure will happen in special settings, and they're encouraged to contact either the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon or the task force for UAP disclosure, that is so-called the Pursue initiative that derived from President Trump's directive to disclose all information about UAP. And this will bring us to a better place because we might realize that we are being spied upon, or that other nations have technologies that we were not aware of, or it will bring a better understanding of what happens within the US government if there were parts of government that were operating without letting others know about it, especially the President of the United States. That needs to be corrected. So all in all, I think it's a blessing. And there is a chance that some of these whistleblowers or people who know more will reveal important information that will help my counsel, for example, figure out the nature of these UAP, especially if there are materials that are kept in secrecy. And by the way, there are all these black projects. These are projects to develop new technologies that only parts of government are aware of, and the funding for them, is also hidden from view. And of course, if there are new technologies that nobody is aware of being used or tested in some testing grounds, private citizens or other parts of government may notice objects that look strange. They might say, well, we were not aware of human-made technologies of this nature, and they will declare the objects that they see as UAP. Some people would say these are alien technologies because we've never seen anything like it. But those people who produce these or are engaged in these black projects, they would recognize these objects. So when the whistleblowers or people will come with reports about UAP, those people who work on these projects, they would know immediately what they are talking about, but they will deny it and dismiss it because they don't want adversarial nations to be aware of these black projects. So you can imagine a situation where the US government, parts of the US government, know about UAP that other parts do not know about, and also the public doesn't know about. And the goal here is to bring more transparency within government if we end up learning more about it. If it ends up that we're dealing with technologies that even in the next decade or two, we cannot imagine humans producing, so that's a very distant future, something that we can imagine a millennium from now or a million years from now, that another civilization in the Milky Way galaxy was able to accomplish. That of course will be a huge scientific discovery. So in both cases, we're talking about future technologies. In one case, it's a decade or 2 decades away, that's human-made, and that perhaps is related to black projects within government that some people do not know about. In the second case, we're talking about an alien civilization from another star that developed technology and science well beyond what we currently have. And of course, that would be far more exciting if it's real. We have to find out. And by the way, when people talk about materials or biologics in crash sites, it could still be those black projects, human-made projects.
Professor, you're very quickly becoming one of my favorite guests on this show. We're running out of time. Really quick before we let you go, a piece of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket crashed into the moon earlier.
Right.
Been drifting through space for over a year. Didn't pose any dangers to Earth, but it is raising a lot of questions about how to manage space debris. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's really a problem because by now there are more than 10,000 communication satellites, and SpaceX and other companies are trying to increase the number by tens of thousands. So the risk of collisions of spacecraft will increase. They have a lifespan of only a few years. So eventually technological debris will be raining down. We see that already. And there are legal issues if they happen to hit residential areas. People may be killed. They may cause damage. But beyond the legal issues, you could imagine a runaway process by which once there are too many fragments, space trash, surrounding the Earth, the chance of additional collisions will increase. And that would make a lot of trouble for communication satellites. So, and all of this is on top of the fact that these are lights in the sky, because these communication satellites, they reflect sunlight. And astronomers usually build observatories in remote areas far from cities where there is not much light pollution. Now, the entire sky is polluted with light reflected from satellites, sunlight reflected from those satellites. So, if they continue to build these, populate these low Earth orbits with communication satellites, with tens of thousands of them, we might need to go to the moon to build the future observatories, because we won't be able to see the cosmos at large.
Professor Avi Loeb out of Harvard, fascinating conversations, everything from the physics of baseball to potential alien crashes to space debris. So much to talk about. Thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, of course. All right, guys, 2:50, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live 252. The Chicago White Sox charities teaming up with all-star first baseman Munetaka Murakami for a special online auction benefiting earthquake recovery efforts out of his hometown in Japan. Fans can bid on autographed, game-used memorabilia, jerseys, bats, gloves, caps, all proceeds supporting emergency response and long-term recovery programs. It's an amazing thing that's happening. We're going to talk with Sarah Laporta, White Sox Senior Director of Community Relations. An amazing thing you guys are doing for such a great cause. Thank you for joining us. Actually, Sarah, I think you might still be muted. Let's see. Let's get you unmuted. Let's see. Or maybe your microphone might be pulling from the wrong source. Let's see. You want to check in, say hi? Still. Let's see. Okay, there we go. All right. Tell us a little bit about the auction, and obviously I mentioned sort of the unfortunate origins of it, but how the auction came to be.
Happened last week. Obviously, no one was expecting it, including Mune. That's his hometown in Japan. And so we knew he wanted to do something to help. He's doing a lot of things privately, but we had a lot of response from fans wanting to help as well. So in the process of all of that, we went to him and said, what about getting some game use items of yours from the game and putting them up for auction, and all the proceeds will benefit those impacted. So he was all for it, loved the support of fans. So we have items up right now on our website. A lot of them game used, some autographed. Another autographed item from Tadahito Oguchi, so another famous Japanese player and White Sox player. But we're excited that fans have an opportunity to support Mune and his hometown.
And how can they do that? How is the auction working?
/auction, and you can bid anytime between now and Sunday at 8 p.m. So it's just a typical online auction.
I know Murakami. I know he's been with the team a little bit, not a very long time, but it really feels like that the city has just fallen in love with him and adopted him. How do you feel like the city of Chicago, and particularly White Sox fans, are really going to step up in a time of need? And because he's given so much to this team and this city already, and it feels like a great opportunity for fans to give back.
And amongst fans, amongst our team, he's become a fan favorite very quickly. You see more Mune jerseys in the stands these days than any other jersey on the team. And I think that just shows, Sox fans want somebody who's going to hit home runs and be a winner, and he's certainly been that. So been a good fit for everybody.
I can honestly tell you, I have one at home, so I am right there with you. Can you talk to me about that initial conversation going to him? Because I love that you guys sort of came up with this idea and said, listen, we want to help. You said he's doing his own thing, but that you guys want to help as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that conversation was like?
Yeah, we try to do that for any of our players, current or former players. If there's a cause that's important to them, how can we help? How can we support it? So, he wanted to do a lot of things privately. So to be honest, we really didn't know how he was going to, did he want to keep it private, or did he want to do something a little bit more publicly, which would be this, in addition to everything else he's doing. And he was all for it. He was so honored that fans would be interested in supporting his hometown. And, we asked for just a couple things, and he brought even more than a couple things of game used items, so, which is great.
And some of these items that you listed are pretty amazing, and things that I would imagine any White Sox fan would want, any baseball fan would want. Can you tell me maybe what some of the prices are, what we're looking at right now?
His stuff is going to get pretty high, is what I will say.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yes, it is a very good thing. So the game use things will go higher than the autographed. Is kind of been our history, we'll call it, of past items of his. Now he's only been with us for a season, so we don't have a ton of his stuff out there, which is one of the reasons why the value is so high. But yeah, it might be frustrating for people who it might be out of their price range, but just know it's going to a good cause. The higher the item gets, the more we'll be able to help.
Exactly right. This isn't just, wouldn't it be fun to have this thing? It's all going for a really great cause. One more time, Sarah, really quick, let people know where they can find more information.
WhiteSox.com/auction, and it'll be up till Sunday at 8 p.m.
Fantastic. Sarah Laporta, White Sox Senior Director of Community Relations. Sarah, we appreciate you as always. Congratulations on really putting together something special for a really amazing cause, and give our best. All right, we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care. All right, guys, we're just wrapping up the 2 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back.
Chicago Live. It is Lauren Scafidi hanging out with you for just a couple of minutes. Wanted to catch you up to speed on some of the things that we are working on for the shows at 4, 5, and 9. At 3 o'clock on the dot, it is such a busy time in our newsroom as our reporters are all around Chicago and beyond gathering their stories. So I'm just going to catch you up to speed on some of the things that our reporters are working on, some other headlines that we're looking at today, and we'll end on a happy note, I promise, because we are starting on a really upsetting note. Our Brett Bagansky is covering another e-scooter death. Now, this is something that it feels like we've been talking about quite a bit here. Now, this is not the first time that we're talking about it this year, that is for sure. So there is a 16-year-old. His name is Alex. He died on August 3rd, so just a couple of days ago while he was on his e-scooter. His family says that he was just on his way home from work when all of this happened. This was on Northwestern Avenue. Really upsetting. Like I said, this is an increasing problem. Police are investigating, and it seems like we've been talking a lot about these teenagers. Again, Alex was just 16 years old. His family is hosting a vigil tonight, so I can only imagine just how emotional that is going to be. You know, not sure if we're going to hear from his family at that vigil or who exactly is going to speak, but I did do a little bit of digging. I was looking on the GoFundMe, and the family has already said some really sweet things about their Alex. The family says that he was an incredible child. He had such a noble heart, and he had the freest soul. So our Brett Bagansky is going to be covering this tonight, and he'll have a lot more about this at 4, 5, and 9. Jody Lum also covering a pretty interesting story tonight, the Mokina Molotov cocktail story. Maybe you've heard about this, but there is this man from Oak Lawn. He was arrested, and apparently he had a couple of these things in his backpack. So there was quite a bit that led up to this arrest, and now the FBI and the ATF are investigating, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes here. Apparently, he made some threats against the Orland Park Prayer Center. So not good. We're talking to Ross Rice. You've probably seen him on our air before. He's a former FBI agent, and we just want to kind of get inside his head, pick his brain a little bit about what possibly could have been going on here, what happens next after this. Ross Rice really always has some good insight, so we're going to figure out a little bit more about what was going on there. Another big headline that we're following today was the detention hearing for a 21-year-old charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of 2 teenagers. Just awful. So this goes back to 2024 and 2025. It's 2 teenagers on the southeast side. Now, we don't know what the connection is here between the shooter and the victims, if the victims knew one another. So that's stuff that we're still working to figure out here. But the judge was deciding today whether the shooter is going to stay in custody while this case moves forward or not. So we're going to bring you an update about that at 4 and 5, and of course 9 o'clock as well. We also, just to switch gears a little bit, we have a live interview at 5 o'clock with the Adler Planetarium about something you've probably seen on social media. So we got to break it down a little bit more. The SpaceX rocket that crashed into the moon overnight. What is going on? So apparently it was drifting off course for a little while, more than a year. So we want to know what's happening. Is there a bigger problem with this space junk that we've been hearing more about? And then we're going to get into the weather a little bit. So let's pull up a live shot. Just take a quick look outside, see how things are looking as we are dry right now, but it was a little rainy earlier. We're going to have, you see some rain there on the lens. JD is going to be talking about kind of a different topic, though, with Emily Walls, talking about climate experts because they're checking on the global temperatures right now to see if this is the hottest year on record. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Can't wait to hear a little bit more from JD and Emily on that. And I did promise you that we're going to end on a happy note, so I'll just tell you this. In the last 10 seconds, there was a contest to name an opossum at the Brookfield Zoo, Chicago, and his name is Crouton. I'll leave you with that. There was a big vote for it. More than 12,000 people voted. Crouton is the name. That's what we're following today on the news at 4, 5, and 9. But let's get back to Chicago Live.
How did Fifth Third Bank get its name?
Welcome back. Just about 3:07 on Chicago Live. A lot of great stuff to get to in the final hour of our show today, including, it's always something, the Better Business Bureau warning consumers about a growing scam involving fake QR codes. We're going to bring in President CEO, Better Business Bureau, my man, Steve Burness. Steve, why can't we ever do a segment where you're just checking in going, things are great, people being really cool?
I wish there was the opportunity, but I've been doing this for 39 years, and there's always...
We've never done that segment.
Never done that segment, 39 years, so I don't plan on doing it anytime soon.
Fair enough. Well, listen, this, as my mom says, it's always something. Just when maybe we've squashed one scam, another one's popping up. This one's involving QR codes. What's the deal, man?
Well, basically, we always tell consumers, be very careful of links. When you click on a link, make sure you look at it, make sure you know who it's going to. With a QR code, you don't know what you're clicking on. So basically, the scammers have found a way around it. Clicking on a link, they give you a QR code. And again, QR codes are safe for restaurants and those that are specifically from a company. But if you see, it could be posted on a parking meter. We've seen them on, different types of websites sometimes. Even you get a package in the mail with no return address, so they ask you, well, click on this QR or go on this QR code, and it's a malicious site. So consumers need to remember that those QR codes are safe, but if they're coming from reliable and trusted sources. So the key to that is make sure you know who you're dealing with. And of course, unfortunately, if you're on a bus somewhere or an L and you see a QR code, they can actually put the QR code over a regular advertisement as well, just by, pasting it on there. So we want consumers to make sure that you just go to the website of the company directly if you're not sure at all, because that could be safer. Because as you know, they can lock up your computer, can lock up your phone, they can hold your stuff for ransom. And if you think that doesn't work, think about that police station several years ago that had to pay the ransomware in Northern Illinois. So it happens to businesses, it happens to consumers, and it can happen to you as well.
You bring up a great point, this idea of these QR codes. I feel like have just really exploded within the past few years. I mean, it's not even just restaurants using them for menus now. I mean, you walk around the city of, downtown Chicago, and they're on, street lamps, and it's like, listen to this band, but scan this QR code and get listen to their single or whatever. I mean, they really are kind of all. Is that the reason we're seeing sort of does one sort of imply the other? A rise in technology inherently means that the rise in scams using that technology?
Of course, anytime technology advances, the scammers advance with it as well. But sometimes it's when the scam works, the scammer will continue doing it and more of it. Again, the only way to put scams out of business is not to give your business. There's not enough courts, law, police that will take care of you and handle all of your concerns. So as you as a consumer need to become educated on these particular scams. But yeah, with technology, yes, they're increasing as well, but it's working. And unfortunately, the scammers know that, so they'll continue using it as much as possible until everybody catches on or they find something better and they'll move on to something else. But QR codes are exploding into anything. And there's a lot of great things that QR codes will help you with. I mean, I remember recently buying a stove and they got a QR code on there so you can get the manual from the QR. That's fine, but you're seeing on an L stop, or you're seeing on a poster board, or you're seeing on a website somewhere. Just click on this. You don't know. You can't read it like you can a URL, so you never know where it's going.
Well, you brought up a great comparison off the top of our conversation. You talked about sort of, lessons that we've learned, because you've done a great job of reminding people of, if you get a random link that you've never seen, or a random email, or, it looks weird and it looks unusual, you wouldn't click on it. It sounds like you can really just transfer all of these rules over to a QR code. Treat it the same way you would a link. If you're looking at a QR code and you don't know the source, you don't know what it's going to go to or what have you, just like you wouldn't click on a link, don't scan the QR code.
Exactly. Don't scan the QR codes unless you know where it's coming from. And if it's in a public environment, whether it be on a parking meter or whether it be on an L stop or L train or whatever it may be, I would advise you, the Better Business Bureau would advise you rather to go to the company's website directly, because you don't know if somebody slapped a sticker over it or something else is wrong with it, because you can't read it. In the old days, you could see a link where it's going. It's going to Google as opposed to the company's name. With a QR code, once you click onto it, it's too late. You can go to that website and it could launch things on your computer, put mail or spamware, and it does damage. I mean, it can lock your computer, it can look in your computer, it can watch you as you do your website. Those malicious links are able to turn on your cameras on your phone or on your laptop and shut the light off so you don't know they're actually watching you or watching your family. So again, any type of links, same thing, carried over to QR codes as well, but especially in a public environment, because those scammers can put it right over something, even on parking meters. We've seen that time and time again.
So that's what I was going to ask you. If you potentially scan one of these, scammy QR codes or what have you, you could potentially be giving them everything, access to everything.
Exactly. If you click on that link and go further with it, yes, you can give them access to it. They download files, they download malware and spam, which actually then resides on your computer, which means they can watch your keystrokes, they can watch you open your bank account. So we've seen consumers many times lose a lot of money on these types of situations, or they start sending money out through using your cash apps. And again, things of that nature, they can do damage to your computer. And most worst is when they stop your computer and they hold it ransom until you pay them to get your own files back or your photos back. And again, it happens to government, it happens to businesses, and it happens to consumers time and time again. The best thing to do is go to the company's website directly. That's what we even say about links getting. If you're not sure where that link's coming from or where it's pointing, go directly to the company's website yourself. Don't follow those links and don't follow a QR code, because that QR code, scams are exploding, not only here in Chicago, Northern Illinois, but all across the country.
Steve, if there's someone that's watching and they're going, Steve, where were you a week ago? I already scanned like 8 of those around downtown Chicago right now. If someone is listening to this segment and they're thinking, I may have already done that, what advice would you give them?
Well, I actually haven't contacted Better Business Bureau, so go to our website, bbb.org. You can file a complaint. We can look into it further for you as well. But the key is, if you see a scam, let us know about it. Go to bbb.org/scam tracker. We keep track of scams all across North America, so you can look first before doing business with somebody or a scam. And also the authorities have access to those scams reports that are in our database. So it goes to all authorities all across North America. But again, if you've fallen for something, let the Better Business Bureau. We also have a team of great individuals that can help you walk on things you can do. But sometimes it's too late. The damage has been done, so you may not be able to recoup some of the things that happened to you.
Steve, one of these days, you and I are going to do a segment. You're going to check in on this show, and I'm going to say, what's the scam? What's the new scam, Steve? And you're going to say, Jake, everything's fine. Everyone's getting along. Everyone's behaving themselves, and that's going to be the best segment ever. I know it's going to happen.
I would love to be there that day, but I've been doing this for 39 years. I'm waiting for that day.
One of these days, man. One of these days. All right, Steve Bernos, President and CEO of Better Business Bureau. Thank you for always giving us this valuable information, my friend. I'll see you soon.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too, buddy. All right, guys, 3:15, just about 45 minutes left in the show. More coming up right here on Chicago Live.
Well, this is all the
Welcome back, 317. You know, I always say this, that the show between the show would make a great show.
The best show.
You know, JD and I were just talking about our love of the long since ended television show Lost.
What was it, 20 years ago or so?
I know, yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Don't reboot it. Leave it alone.
Please.
But listen, as much as I would love to do a 15-minute segment with you about the constant and about the ending, they weren't dead the whole time. We can have a whole conversation about that. There is actually some weather. I mean, it's kind of already started. We can see out there there's a window.
We don't have to talk about that. There's a whole block of news coming.
We
could do. Okay, fine.
I promise you, there are a lot of people watching this show right now downstairs that are going, weather, not lost.
Well, you can get lost in some of these
come on.
cases. What? I mean,
see, kids, see, that's why he's got the job.
They write themselves.
He's very good at that.
Write themselves.
Come on.
You might get lost in some of the rain. Some people are going, where was the rain this morning? We were supposed to have some rain this morning. Some select areas had a little bit. Yeah. And at times it was a little heavy, then it was gone.
I feel like that's important to remember because whenever you guys are forecasting, and you do a great job, and you say, hey, listen, this thing is going to happen. You are forecasting for granted, Chicago is the third largest city in the country.
There's that.
The third largest television market in the country. You are forecasting for it stands to reason that something that happens, that something that happens over here is going to maybe not happen to someone over here.
The best way I can put that, how many of us have done a March Madness bracket?
Oh, yes.
And everyone thinks they know.
Yeah.
And nobody gets it right.
That hasn't literally never been perfect.
Nobody gets it right. And you know all 64 teams are now, it's 157, whatever they're doing these days. Yeah. It's that whole thing.
That's a great comparison.
It's tough. You know the variables, but inevitably something happens, and one thing going wonky messes the whole deal up. And that's what happened last night and this morning. There was this storm complex in Iowa. Yeah. It was supposed to come our way, and instead of moving east, it went southeast and just took a dive. It threw the whole fight. But now
I'm looking to the left side of the screen.
Yes, so we've got some action here across Grundy County heading toward Will County. We've got a little bit of rain and thunder activity ongoing there. It's nothing too concerning, but then farther west there's even more action coming in. So if you didn't get rain this morning, you will likely get some rain as we head more into the evening and tonight, because here is the 12-hour loop of the satellite and radar. So you'll watch the stuff that dove down toward Quincy. That was supposed to be our business this morning. Didn't materialize for this morning, but now we're watching this next round try to get itself together and push its way into this area for this evening and tonight.
How severe are we talking?
I don't think severe, but that's a big thing.
Okay.
There might be one or two stronger storms that has maybe some gusty wind, 40, 50 miles an hour. Maybe somebody gets some small hail. This does not look to be like a big severe weather maker for us, but heavy rain could be a concern in some cases.
Not to sound, like a old guy sitting on the porch, but is this rain we need?
So, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
And so we picked up a lot of rain over the past weekend. Anybody who was out at Lala knows about how much rain that we picked up there. I think that one girl is still in the mud.
I was about to say, that one girl that they barricaded off.
Still.
My girlfriend showed me that of her sinking into the mud.
So some places got hit a lot with rain over the weekend. Others didn't see too much. And so there are always those that want more and who need more. And over the course of me doing this for years and years and years in an area like this, we, the general we, tend to get focused on, city living and driving out of the city.
Of course.
We tend to forget about our farmers and our ranchers out there. They make livelihood.
Whose ability to make a living. It's depending on the weather.
Everything depends upon getting enough rain, but not too much rain, or not getting too little rain. So, and that can vary from crop to crop to crop on what you need. So there might be some farmers and ranchers going, hey, I'm good. Yeah. Others are going, I could use a little more of a drink and or turn off my irrigation systems because that costs me money.
Yeah. So it needs to be, we need to like Truman Show it. And just have like the little rain spout.
Little bubble, just
follows them
in
some
cases.
Tell me one more time, like the timing of it. Are we looking at commuters driving home? Hopefully, will people be home by the time it comes through?
I think for most of us here for this late afternoon to evening, we should be okay. It's along and south of I-80 where things could kind of build up more, say, after about 6, 7 o'clock this evening. So it might be more of a late evening to nighttime sort of a deal. So we'll keep an eye on that. Emily will have all the details coming up at 4 and 5.
It could be a stay in and order a pizza kind of night.
What's wrong?
Or have a good excuse not to go to the gym. Sorry, honey. JD said it was going to rain.
You know, yeah, you can't get out.
He said it was going to rain, and then we should probably start Lost, I guess.
Yeah, why not?
But it looks, it looks a little goopy out there.
Yeah, I
don't know if that's a technical meteorological term. Goopy.
Any word you can make up and sound confident will work. Trust me, I've been doing it for years now. So it is kind of goopy. It is kind of soupy. It's humid out there as well.
That's a better word.
Clouds are out there. The warm, muggy air. I think I've got a temperature map ready to go too that we'll call up here in a second to kind of show you where things are going in terms of temperatures, because it is kind of that warm, sticky air. Yeah, the weekend outlook. That's what it was I wanted to talk about. If we're planning for the weekend, middle 80s, muggy both days. There is another chance of rain coming up Saturday night into Sunday. Morning temperatures around 70. So the goopy feel that we have today isn't really going to go anywhere. It's August. It's summertime. It's going to be humid. And here is that humidity tracker showing where dew points are going to be. Anytime dew points are around 70 to 72, 73, that's humid. That's like Florida coming to you to visit as opposed to you going to Florida. So you save the plane ride there and you get all that business to deal with. So it's going to feel humid. It's going to be warm. Tomorrow might be the coolest day of the next handful, with temperatures struggling to get to 80, but still the humidity makes it feel even warmer. And then again, weekend looking pretty good on Saturday. Showers, thunderstorms come in that night into Sunday, and there might be more chances for some rain and thunder moving into Monday and Tuesday.
JD, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And I get oftentimes what people's perception of the weather is just their most recent inconvenience, right?
100%.
It feels like this summer's kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Weather-wise.
I would agree.
Okay, yes?
I would agree. Because we can't, I showed the stat.
So we're not crazy in thinking that.
Well, we're crazy. But in thinking that, it's a whole different story. It's because I showed the stat a while ago. We had the longest dry stretch. It just occurred last month where we had about 21 dry days in a row. Outside of that, though, we've been getting rain constantly. We had that stretch of hot weather. We had a little stretch of cool weather. We haven't just had, I don't know how you'd put it, just a quiet summer.
Right.
Where it's not super hot and humid, where it's not stormy. You can just go outside, you can sweat a little bit, sit by the pool, and just enjoy yourself.
And that's it. I mean, the amount, even on days where I feel like, okay, well, thank God it's not raining. Let me grab a coat because it's 65 degrees in July.
Because
now we're in August now, but like
it's the same idea. Yeah, we can't seem to win.
Is that indicative of it, or is that just a roll of the dice and you get what you get, and maybe next summer will be better?
I'm thinking that's where we are. This is just one of those statistical things where every so often you get a craptastic summer, and you go, well,
is that another meteorological?
You say it with confidence, and anybody. It's how. We have FCC regulations.
Sure,
I talked about this before.
Yes.
Too. There's certain things I can't say on television.
Sure.
This has been one of those
commercial break.
One of those summers. So I get it. I understand. But on that same vein, I have one more thing called up to share with you. Let's not bemoan what we have going on, because look ahead. Do we have it? Average high temperatures. Once we get about a month from now, I know.
You're breaking out the Novembers and the Decembers.
I'm just letting you know.
You hear that? You hear that groan? You hear that universal groan?
That is my job.
We're on the air now, JD. You can't just throw these things out.
But again, like with our farmer rancher talk, there are those who love fall. There are those.
I know. I like fall. Okay. That being said, it's too early for the PSLs.
But it's out.
It is out. I saw that. My girlfriend showed me that. It's too early.
I know a woman who already bought some, and I'm not going to mention my wife's name.
I was just about to say.
I'm not going to. I wouldn't do that to her.
I can't make fun of you. My girlfriend bought candy corn today.
See? See? Why?
Yeah.
Why can't they let summer have the season?
Here, you ask me why? Yeah. Because I told her to.
So we know who else at this table likes candy corn.
Okay, candy corn should be universal. There's nothing wrong with a July or an August candy corn.
Well, they make it in red, white, and blue now, you know.
Yeah.
Just that very reason.
America corn.
America corn. See? Well done.
The corn of freedom.
That's freedom corn. Didn't we have freedom fries for a while? Now we have freedom corn.
Exactly right. Freedom corn. Okay, so we got to get back on track. They'll never let us do this again.
Never.
Okay, so I know we were complaining about maybe the lack of beach days, you know?
Yes.
It's still only August 5th.
It is, and we have plenty of summer. There's plenty of time.
At what point would you say, guys, ship has sailed, let it go?
October, maybe.
October, okay, so we got 2 whole months.
You got tons of time. But as we've discussed, you're going to get these days where that wind turns off the lake, maybe a little bit cooler, the clouds come in, you go, what is this? But I feel over the past handful of years, and I have no scientific data to back this up.
Say it with confidence.
But bingo. But I feel that over the past couple of years, the seasons have shifted almost.
Okay.
Like it stays warmer longer and it stays cooler longer. Because think about this year. It didn't warm up until almost the end of June.
I was just about to say, I felt like we were wearing like our coats way into May.
We were.
Like there were Marvel movies in theaters, and we were still wearing our... we should not be cold going to see a Marvel movie.
No. But
that being said, the next Marvel movie's in December, so maybe so.
Well, fair enough. Maybe it'll be warm that day.
Yeah, but fingers crossed.
So, yeah, we're getting to that point where I think that the calendar says one thing, but the atmosphere is going to do what it wants to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have some great warm days, September, October, likely into November as well. But then we'll start that quick downhill descent into a Chicago winter that everybody...
So if you want to be comfortable watching a Bears game, maybe do it now. Preseason's your friend.
Not a bad idea.
Preseason's your friend. Otherwise, you have no one to complain about.
Exactly.
No one to blame but yourself. Really quick, you mentioned the weather. Probably not too severe. Any potential flight delays for anyone flying out?
You know, listen, I can't control what the airport's going to do with ground stops or anything else like that. But as it looks right now on the radar picture, we should be okay at both O'Hare and at Midway for the time being. Later on this evening, if there is a heavier shower over top of the airport, I know anytime a fly sneezes, O'Hare.
I was just about to say that.
We got to ground these planes real quick. We got to...
Some flies. I always say that about LaGuardia. I'm like LaGuardia.
Yes.
You know, anytime it'll be a delay, and I'll be like, oh yeah, fly sneeze.
Something happened, and they just had to stop the plane. Which you don't want to do that to a super busy airport like O'Hare. But listen, I'm not in charge of these things, and I'm
not
sure
with that attitude.
There's reason. Well, I don't want to be. I don't want. I get enough blame doing this job. I don't need that one getting the blame too. I get the emails. I get the comments.
Oh, I know, dude.
You do too.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
Can't believe you told me to see the Odyssey. Yeah, I know.
Well,
I know. Wait, hold on. We got the text from the girlfriend. Yep, candy corn is good.
See, there it is.
Candy corn. It is good. It is delicious. And I told her to buy it.
Yeah.
So that's on me.
You owned up.
JD, my man, always good to see you, man.
Likewise, JD.
We got to stop being so good at this, or they're going to give us a show.
No. That's
how it starts.
Well, we'll see.
The Jake and JD show. Oh, look, they gave us either the rap music or potential music for our show.
I think we're
either way, it's not good. All right, guys, it's 3:30. Chicago Live rolls on. For the love of God, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Just about 3:32 on Chicago Live. We're going to take a live look out at Vegas right now. President Donald Trump in Vegas to promote his tax agenda just 3 months before the midterm elections. Speaking at Red Rock Casino, the president is expected to highlight Republican-backed tax policies, including eliminating taxes on tips, overtime pay, and Social Security benefits. Now, the visit comes as Nevada prepares for closely watched statewide and congressional races, with the governor's race considered one of the nation's most competitive. After his remarks today, he is scheduled to return to Washington. We're going to keep an eye on that. Whenever the president takes the stage, we'll listen in on that. But for now, while we wait, let's listen in on the Senate floor.
$4 right now nationally, and it's even higher in Hawaii at $5.45. Diesel is $1.60 more than it was a year ago, which means that we're all paying more at stores for deliveries and transportation. In Hawaii, electricity bills went up 20% in 1 month. 20% in 1 month because of skyrocketing oil prices. And food prices continue to climb everywhere as the closure of the Strait of Hormuz extends a global fertilizer shortage. It is common for presidents to have to deal with the problems related to the economy, and specifically, what can be a real political killer is the question of inflation. But this is very unusual and maybe unprecedented in American history. You have a president of the United States whose stated policy on tariffs, on energy, on Iran, on healthcare, on food, is to raise the price of everything. That is not a sort of accidental outcome of his economic policy. It is his economic policy to raise the price of everything. People are going broke, and they are doing it to you on purpose. I yield the floor.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I was never going to come out here and support Todd Blanche for a long list of reasons. I do believe he is one of the most corrupt Justice Department officials in our country's history, for one. He was Trump's former personal lawyer, and it seems that he never quit. The only difference now is that taxpayers are signing its checks instead of Trump. He was the one who negotiated a $1.8 billion slush fund to pay off violent insurrectionists, and who cut a backroom deal to give the president and his entire corrupt family immunity from IRS investigations. Not to forget, Todd Blanche is the guy who botched the Epstein files so badly survivors had their names and faces exposed, while the names of alleged abusers were hidden. This is a man who wouldn't meet with survivors until senators put him under a tremendous amount of public pressure. And when the meeting eventually got on the books, survivors made it crystal clear Blanche didn't listen to them. He was more interested in checking a box than hearing their stories or bringing them justice. All of that is, of course, absolutely unacceptable and disqualifying. But I come here today to sound the alarm on some of the most disturbing comments I've ever heard from the nation's top law enforcement official. Mr. President, I guess Todd Blanche thought no one was listening, because on a private call with anti-abortion activists, Mr. Blanche told us all exactly what he plans to do if senators confirm him. His goal was to make the Dobbs decision, and I quote, permanent in every single state. Every single state, not just Texas or Idaho. He wants to ban abortion in Washington state, in California, in New York, in every state. He told them, quote, we will have victory, and victory will be soon, and it will be permanent. Victory over what exactly? Victory over women who just want to make their own health care decisions? Victory over patients in states where abortion is legal? Where voters have said over and over at the ballot box, keep your hands off our rights. Now, a DOJ spokesperson tried to clean up Blanche's words, saying he was only focused on restricting access to medication abortion in all 50 states, as if that's somehow better. Well, I'm here to say I believe the tape. I believe Todd Blanche's own words. So let's be crystal clear about what this vote is. A vote to confirm Todd Blanche is a vote to endorse his fight to ban abortion in all 50 states. Whatever happened to this state's decision? So every Republican who votes yes is voting for exactly that. His words, not mine. And any Republican who votes to confirm him will own that in every state, in every election. So, Mr. President, this isn't just a confirmation vote anymore. It is a roll call vote on which senators endorse banning abortion in all 50 states from the federal level. I'm voting no. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Senator from Rhode Island.
Mr. President, I'm here to take us into the upcoming vote, the Congressional Review Act vote, with respect to a EPA rule related to PFAS. For those of you who aren't following this, PFAS is a dangerous and toxic substance that I think Republicans and Democrats alike see as a dangerous and inadequately regulated substance. Unfortunately, it is particularly prevalent in military installations, and particular exposure has been faced by veterans and also by folks who are in our emergency response community, firefighters. Airports get a lot of it because of the firefighting drills that they have to have. It's a very significant problem, and there was a rule that required reporting about PFAS use. Manufacturers and importers just have to say, here's what we're doing. But it's important to get that information out so that people can understand where the exposure is to these toxic PFAS chemicals. Well, just before, like 4 days before that reporting window is supposed to open and require reporting of PFAS exposure, Trump's EPA announced a new interim rule with a delay of the reporting requirement until next year. They delayed it once. That delay ran out. This is a second delay. First of all, I don't think there's any need for a delay. Second of all, there's every reason to believe that the chemical industry is behind weakening PFAS protections during the delay period. That would be consistent with the Trump
in on the Senate floor. We're keeping an eye on Vegas, waiting on the president to take the stage to speak on tax policies ahead of midterms. But for now, we are going to roll to break. We got a lot more to come in the final 20 minutes here on Chicago Live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 3:43 on Chicago Live. There's a good chance if you've got some kids around the house, they have already mentioned going out to this thing. Hello Kitty fans have a new destination in downtown Chicago. The world's largest Hello Kitty Cafe has officially opened along the Mag Mile. We're going to bring in Jill Cook, SVP of Brand at Sanrio. Jill, I got to tell you, we're just where the studio is just a couple blocks away from the cafe, and I don't think I've walked by there while it's open without seeing a line out the door. So you guys did something right.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Of course. You guys could have chosen anywhere in the world. Why Chicago?
Well, as we kind of talked about and planned our first cafe in the Midwest, we knew we wanted it to be in Chicago, and we really wanted to create something special for both the locals as well as visitors, because we know you all get a lot of tourists there in Chicago.
And it's a prime location. It really is fantastic. I know you guys have other locations, other cafes, other stores. What makes this one different?
I think what makes this one different and special is, as you brought up, it's our largest cafe to date. I think with that, we, obviously have expanded dining. We have a special bow room afternoon tea experience, as well as 2 levels and 8,000 square feet of, endless surprise and delight photo-ready moments, so fans can come and enjoy, as well as create memories with their friends and family.
That's fair. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a nearly 40-year-old man, so I don't have a ton of experience with Hello Kitty, but I do remember it was very popular when I was a kid. I remember a lot of kids around school having sort of Hello Kitty backpacks and stuff. I mean, whenever I mentioned seeing the lines out the door, and whenever I saw that, I thought, wow, like the enduring popularity of this brand is kind of does it surprise? I know the answer is no, but does it surprise you that it's still as big as it is?
I think, yeah, of course, grateful, she's still so relevant. I think, with Hello Kitty, her enduring appeal, it comes down to her values. Like, she's been, to your point, she's been around actually more than 50 years. She's stood for friendship and kindness, and just that idea that even the smallest moments can create happiness. And that's really something that we see, translates across generations and cultures.
And from my understanding is that it's kind of an experience whenever you go in. It's not just a store. It's not just going in and you grab, some cookies and get out of there. It kind of feels like it's a whole thing.
Yes, we really wanted from the moment you walk in for you to feel like you've stepped into Hello Kitty's world. So the space is bright, it's welcoming, it's full of super cute details. It's really designed to bring people together and really have fun and sort of share their love of Hello Kitty together in the space. And with all that, we also have, exclusive food and beverages and merchandise. So there's really something for everyone.
And, when you mention something for everyone, because this is a character, because this is a brand that's been around for so long, you'll see, parents with their little kids in line waiting to get in. And then you'll see adults that are just there for themselves. I mean, there really is no limitations on who's lining up to get inside of this place.
Yeah, it's great. We've seen over the years that Hello Kitty is really a generational brand. So moms everywhere that loved it growing up, it's really kind of that special experience. They sort of hand the brand down to their daughters. So we really love that we're 4 generations in now, and sometimes we'll see grandma, mom, and the daughter at our experiences together. So that's something so special about the brand.
I love that. How is it going to, we mentioned it being an experience. How is it going to evolve over time? If someone says, yeah, it was great. I saw it. I was there a couple of weeks back. It was fantastic. What are you guys going to do to get that person back?
I would say that, we'll have sort of our our core treats and merch that will be part of the menu throughout. But we also do a lot of seasonal menus and seasonal products. So we'll switch out depending, when fall comes and pumpkin spice season going into winter. So we do change the menu seasonally. We also do a lot of special events at the cafe. So recently at our cafes here, we had some Pom Pom Purin meet and greets. So we bring, besides Hello Kitty, some of her friends along. So there's always something different and new to experience and for you to come back.
There's an old cliche in news that oftentimes we'll get told not to say because everyone says it. It's the expression, hack your patience. And the reason I say that is because, as I've mentioned, and this is a good thing, it's a good problem to have, there are often lines out the door to get in. And listen, people go in and you can't say, okay, hurry up, you got 15 minutes and get out. Like, you got to let people enjoy the experience of being inside. So what advice would you give parents or anyone who's going out there to maybe expect to just be patient?
Yeah, I would say that. And also you can, for the actual tea experience, which is the Bow Room afternoon tea, that actually accepts reservations. So I would say if, especially when it's hot, if you want to ensure you have a time to be in there and you want to experience the tea, I would say make the reservation for that. Otherwise, you can pop by and line up and come, enjoy the treats and enjoy the cafe. But there's, if you want to ensure you won't need to wait a long time, I would suggest the reservations.
What is the tea experience?
So afternoon tea, it's really our signature experience for the cafe. It's, of course, being at the Hello Kitty Cafe, it's designed to immerse you in Hello Kitty's world. So it honors the tradition of an afternoon tea, but really the whole experience is curated from the tableware, the presentation, the overall atmosphere, the themed food. So it's like a traditional afternoon tea experience, but customized within Hello Kitty's world.
And what are the price points? So is there a wide range of things that are kind of affordable for all families?
Yeah, I think a wide range. We do beverages and takeaway treats. On the merchandise side, we have keychains and pins up to apparel and tote bags. So I think within that, there's something for every price range.
Now, Jill, I know right now, Chicago is a prideful city, and we take a lot of pride in being the biggest, the best in all things. We don't want you guys to build a bigger one than this. We are perfectly fine, having that trophy on our mantle. Is there? Are there plans of you guys doing a bigger one than that, or do we get to hold on to that title for a while?
I think you hold on to that title right now. We're always, of course, growing and expanding, but definitely that is your title to have right now.
Listen, Jill, if we find out that Boise gets the biggest Hello Kitty cafe, we are going to be furious. All right, let people know. You mentioned reservations. Reservations can be important. Can you let people know how they can do that?
Yeah, I would say for all the details to know events upcoming, you can visit Hello Kitty Cafe Chicago on Instagram, get all the details as well as contact information there.
Fantastic. Jill Cook, SVP of brand at Sanrio. We appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations. It's already a success. So we really do appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much, and we're excited to welcome you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. All right, guys, 3:52, just a couple minutes left. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back.
Traditions evolve.
Welcome back. Just about 3:55 on Chicago Live. We have just about 3 minutes left in the show before Fox 32 News at 4 kicks off with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. Let's take a live look outside and see what the weather's looking like. You heard from JD a little bit earlier that we do have some storms coming our way. We were supposed to have some a little bit earlier this morning. Luckily for the commuters coming into the city, that got pushed a little south, but it does sound like we're going to get some rain. Nothing too severe, they said. That's going to be coming through a little bit later this afternoon. It's looking a little soupy out there already, but I can see out the window here at our studio in Michigan and Lake, and I'm not seeing a lot of people. Well, let's see. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, there it is. Well done. I'm not seeing a lot of people with any kind of raincoats or any kind of umbrellas. Can we take a live look at the Bean? Can we call that up? I don't know if we have the ability to call that up. Because earlier we had a live look at the Bean and some people were huddled under it because it was raining on them, and I feel like that's a good indicator of just how rough it is out there. It doesn't look like it's too bad, but it might be coming through a little bit later. We wanted to sort of kind of run through some really quick entertainment headlines before we wrap up the show. And this is really promising. Just as a fan, oh, there we go. There's a live look at the Bean. All right, you got Cloudgate fans out there, got some tourists out there, some people out there taking all kinds of photos, but none of them seem to be worried about the weather at all, so it seems to be okay. Might not be the case a little bit later this afternoon. Some quick entertainment headlines. Box office-wise, AMC reporting its best 5-day stretch in the history of the theatrical company, which is absolutely huge. This could be the most successful box office year we've seen since COVID, at a time where we didn't know if people were going to be going back to the movies. It seems like not only are they going back to the movies, they're going back in record fashion. Of course, the big title right now being Spider-Man just gave us the biggest opening of all time in the history of film. It also gave us the biggest Monday, the biggest Tuesday in the history of film at the box office. Very likely could be one of the biggest Wednesdays in the history of the box office. Between that and the continued success of The Odyssey, box office numbers are in. We're looking at a $10 billion year, so that's absolutely huge and will be continued as we go into the rest of the summer movie season and into sort of some of the big blockbusters. We've still got an Avengers movie and a Dune movie to come out in the coming months. So very nice to hear that the box office is back, the theatrical business is back. So that's always really great for the entertainment world. But for now, that's it here on Chicago Live. It's been great being with you these past few hours, but don't change that channel. We've got an amazing news broadcast. Fox 32 News at 4 begins in just a moment with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. You're going to want to get your latest weather forecast and breaking news coming out of the city of Chicago and all around our area. But for now, I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.
Saving. Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Rain, wind, maybe more. Which neighborhoods could get the worst of it this time?
A Chicago family mourning the loss of a 16-year-old who was killed while riding an